So hey guys, how are you all? Welcome to Tsunami Sage. So we are back with a brand new movie on What If Naruto Became New Student at Monster Academy and full harem movie. But before we start, be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Now let's begin the story. On a bus, one could see a blonde teenager sitting in one of the back seats dozing in and out of consciousness. His hair was shaggy, blonde, and 3 lines could be seen on each side of his face. Wearing an ugly green jacket with white shirt and red tie, the teen briefly let his eyes flutter open coming out of his trance-like state as the bus came to a stop. He thought, that same damn nightmare, eyes watering remembering the events that transpired in his life not too long ago. When will they stop? Looking around the bus, he noticed another student getting his things together ready to exit the bus. The blonde studied him for a moment. He looked like a pretty normal person all around, brown hair and eyes, wearing the same ugly-ass suit that he currently was wearing. Another student, huh? He then got up himself and collected his things as well. It wasn't much, just a large scroll and a couple of books that he had been reading. As he was gathering his things, he heard the bus driver say to the other teen, "Yukai Academy is a very horrifying school." Creeping the teen out. The blonde boy looked up at the driver and was slightly surprised at what he saw. Glowing eyes. He thought, that's something you don't see every day. I wonder if that's some kind of dujutsu or kekkei genkai. As he exited the bus and saw the other teen freaking out and panicking over something. Maybe it was because of the lightning cracking in the background or something. A lot of people have a fear of that, right? He walked up to the teen, who was now on the verge of crying. "Hey man, you okay?" The other teen glanced back at him. Why yay, I'm fine," he stuttered. You're that other guy who was on the bus with me, right?" he asked. "Yep," replied the blonde with a grin, then sticking out his hand, "Naruto Uzumaki, nice to meet you." The other boy relaxed and gave the blonde a smile of his own. His personality seemed infectious. "Hi there, I'm Sukune Aono. Nice meeting you too, Uzumaki-san." He paused for a moment looking back at the intimidating building. Uzumaki-san, is it just me or is this place kinda creepy to you?" Naruto squinted his eyes and looked at the building with lightning repeatedly going off behind it. "Yay, that's definitely a creepy place. And just call me Naruto. I was never one for honorifics." This caused Sukune to smile as well. "Then call me Sukune as well, Naruto," he replied, "but, seriously, what are we going to do about that?" he stated while pointing to the mansion. "That's a haunted mansion if I have ever seen one." This caused Naruto to shiver and go wide-eyed. How haunted?" Naruto exclaimed, now visibly shaking in fright. Sukune raised an eyebrow to this. "Well, yay, just look at the place. It's got haunted written all over it." Sukune replied, while creeped out. He didn't understand why Naruto was basically acting like a little girl right now. There's probably axe murders, zombies, and ghosts in there as we speak. "GG ghosts!" Naruto shrieked. It was almost comical to Sukune at how much of a baby he was acting. Now thinking of a new way to calm his new acquaintance, cause now it was almost embarrassing to see this grown teen basically up and start crying on the ground. Wow, he thought, I hope that I'm never that bad. I'm a chicken, but this is ridiculous. Well, I'm sure it's not like that at all, it just looks creepy on the outside. I'm sure that there is no crazy monster inside waiting to kill us. Oh Sukune, if you only knew. Screw monsters and murders, screamed Naruto. You can beat the crap out of those guys. But those ghosts, you can't even see or touch them. This caused Sukune to just stare at him. While Naruto then went on how ghosts were like the scariest things on the planet. He's not afraid of monsters or murderers, but ghosts. Sukune thought. That's kinda lame actually. And then, you can't even kill a freaking ghost because they're already dead. Naruto cried, still going on with tears in his eyes. And if you try to defend yourself you can't. You know why? He cried in Sukune's face, causing the boy to think that there was something wrong with the blonde. "'Cause you'll just go through them." Thinking about it, Sukune kinda could see why the blonde was so afraid, but come on, this was ridiculous. He was about to reply when Naruto cut him off again. "Oh well," said the blonde, surprising Sukune greatly at basically the turnaround Naruto had made in his conduct. "If anything bad happens, at least you and me, buddy, we'll take them on. What are friends for after all, right?" The blonde questioned him, getting the brown-haired boy to go wide-eyed. Friends?" he stuttered, surprised that the blonde had already thought of him as a friend, and also that he might have been a bit bipolar. Naruto smiled while scratching his cheek and sheepishly said, "Well yay, I mean I don't have a lot of them, But I figured since we're both here, why not be friends, right? Sukue just smiled at this, thinking that he'd never really had friends before. Maybe this place won't be so bad after all, he thought. Welp! Exclaimed Naruto, causing Sukune to break from his train of thought. I better get going. I have an appointment to keep and I don't want to be late. I hope we are in some of the same classes, Sukune. I'll see you later, ite. He said with a grin, causing Sukune to smile as well. Why yay. See you, Naruto, he replied, giving him a wave as he watched the blonde take off, only to turn around and get one of the biggest shocks of his life. Naruto walked through the creepy mansion until he reached a giant door. Knocking and opening the door, he found himself staring into a pair of creepy glowing green eyes from a man who had his face covered with a wild hood. It was so dark in the room that Naruto could barely see the man even though he was only about 20 feet away from him. Ah, you must be Mr. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, correct? Said the strange-robed man. After getting a nod from the blonde, he continued, then I suppose you know why you are here? Not really, Oji-san, replied Naruto, shaking his head. Your messenger only stated that I would be informed of the mission once I actually came here. He said it would be an undercover mission, but that's about it. After stating this, there was a silence between the two. Naruto became increasingly uncomfortable with the silence as the man's creepy glowing eyes continued to stare at him. Very well. The man finally replied. You may refer to me as the headmaster. And your mission is simple. The man paused, causing Naruto to become increasingly curious as to what his mission would imply. And that is to become a student here at the academy and pass all your classes. A smirk appeared on the man's face as he saw the blonde's eyes go wide with confusion. What? The blonde stated, causing the hooded man's smirk to become wider. I believe you heard me perfectly well, Mr. Uzumaki. Enjoying the look on the bewildered blonde. You will be well compensated for your work, I assure you. Now that that's taken care of, I have much work to do, so off you go. With that, the blonde was suddenly enveloped in a bright light and was forced to close his eyes. Once the light died down, he noticed that he was in an apartment-like room. Looking around, he saw his scroll and books on a bed that was right next to him. Feeling something in his hand, he looked down and found that there was a slip of paper in his hand. Looking at it, it looked like it was a schedule that was made up for him. What the hell kind of mission is this anyways? He asked himself, gathering himself together before noticing that he was supposed to be in his homeroom in 5 minutes. Back in the headmaster's office, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze stated the principal with a grin that would split the face of anyone normal. You will do marvelous things while you are here, I can be sure of that. With Sukune, what a weird morning. Thought Sukune, first making friends with some bipolar guy and then running into probably the hottest girl I have ever seen who turns out to be a vampire. What the hell is that about? Can't I just have a normal life? Breaking off from his thoughts, he felt a slap on the back that kinda stung. Hey Sukune. What a coincidence, we got the same homeroom together, said a familiar voice. Looking back, Sukune saw that it was his crazy friend that he had met earlier this morning. A smile rose from Sukune's mouth seeing his first friend again. Hey Naruto, I'm glad you're in my homeroom too. The blonde just grinned and took a seat next to him. Then a woman with glasses came in that had some feline appearances to her. Hello everyone and welcome to Yukai Academy, she stated. I am your homeroom teacher Shizuka Nekonom. I think you all already know this, but this is a school built for the sake of monsters to attend, she said with a large smile on her face, causing Sukune to blanch in fear. What? Thought Naruto with his eyebrow raised. That old fart never told me that, the teacher continued. Our current problem, the Earth has already come under control of the humans. In order for us monsters to continue to survive, we have no choice but to peacefully coexist with the humans. The teacher smiled happily while pointing to a diagram of the Earth that was drawn on the board. At this academy, you will be studying how to coexist with humans. This statement caused Sukune to go into a panic attack, looking left and right. MONNSTERRSSS. What's she saying? Thought Sukune. She continued, so for that reason, as a school rule, you will all live your lives at this academy in human form. Do you understand? It's a matter of being able to disguise yourself well as a human. This is the foundation of coexistence. You are never to allow any of your fellow students to know your true form, understand? She asked, looking around the room. Interesting. Thought Naruto. Well, this mission shouldn't be so boring after all. Thinking of the possibilities of living with monsters caused Naruto to grin. This action was caught by Sukune, though causing him to shake in fear. CC crap, is Naruto a monster too? He thought fearfully. Great, my first friend here at this place and here he is a monster. He thought, causing him to become a little sad. Hey teacher, said some douchey-looking guy, would it not be easier for us to eat up those puny humans? Causing Sukune to cringe and Naruto to narrow his eyes, and in case of beautiful grills, better to molest them. Ending with a smug look. I will personally sever his tiny thing he calls a package if he ever even tries to touch a girl, thought an angry blonde. Oh, cried the teacher, incidentally, here at the academy, the teachers and students are all monsters, so there are no genuine humans here. Since this academy is within a secret sacred world, to those humans who come to know of our existence, we will bring them death or something, causing a blonde's eyes to widen and Sukune to start crying silently in the back. What the hell kinda rule is that? Naruto thought, but the headmaster must know that I am a human as well, right? His thoughts were interrupted by a loud, "Excuse me." Naruto looked up and saw a girl his age with pink hair and green eyes coming in the room. He had to admit this girl was quite beautiful. Her figure was that to die for, her long slender legs coming out of her short skirt. And by the looks of things, she was very well developed. Then he saw that there was a choker around her neck, with a strange cross thing attached to it. Naruto narrowed his eyes and noticed something off with it. What is that? He thought. It's like that thing is holding a great deal of power. No, that's not right, it seems to be holding something back. After the entrance ceremony I kinda got lost in the school. Sorry I'm late, replied the cute girl. Oh, that's fine, replied Shizuka. Just take a seat. While thinking what a cute girl she was while getting an okay as a reply. Said girl sauntered down the classroom while all the males in the class seemed to have turned into crazed hormonal machines. Who is she? Said a random student. UCH flowing hair, big eyes. Whoa, beautiful, replied another nameless student. Hot, screamed another, she's too hot, I'm so happy to be in the same class as this girl. Naruto couldn't believe what he was seeing. Are you joking me, he thought. Yay, she's hot, but still, she's just like every other person. What the hell is wrong with this class? Frowning at the way his classmates were acting up. Mocha, said Sukune quietly, causing the girl to turn to him before recognizing him instantly. It's Sukune, she cried while launching a flying glomp at him. We're in the same class. While Sukune looked like he was about to have a heart attack and Naruto just raised an eyebrow. The rest of the class though became furious at the beautiful girl's reaction. Ah! Cried a student. What's with this guy? What relation does he have with that girl? Cried another. Our beautiful girl, sobbed another. After class down the hall, a beautiful pink-haired girl could be seen dragging a dazed boy around with her arm intertwined in his. Sukune couldn't believe it. Is this a dream? He thought, it has to be. Today has been just like being inside a dream. He glanced at the smiling girl on his arm. But, if I can be this happy, I guess the monsters aren't that big of a deal. Glancing around, he then saw a familiar blonde-haired student walking down the hall to them. Hey Naruto! Exclaimed Sukune, causing the pink hairball of joy on her arm to look up at him in confusion. Naruto looked up from the book that he was reading and smiled when he saw who it was. Hey Sukune, he said with a smile. Looks like you two are having a blast now, doesn't it? Laughing sheepishly, smiling Sukune said, Yay, I guess so. By the way, I would like to introduce you to my good friend here, Mocha-san. This here Mocha is my first friend that I made here, Naruto. Looking in the direction of the pink-haired girl. Hi, nice to meet you, chirped the girl. My name is Mocha Akashiya. I hope we can be friends as well. Smiling ever so much at the blonde, causing the blonde to chuckle. Nice to meet you too, Mocha-chan, replied the blonde. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, and I don't see why we couldn't be friends. More the merrier, right? This caused the girl to beam brightly at him and smile even more. Yeah, she cried, jumping up and down. You're the second person who I have made friends with today, she exclaimed, causing Naruto to chuckle even more, until he felt another presence come up from behind him. My, you are a pretty one, aren't you? Said the man who was making the comments of eating humans and molesting girls. Naruto's eyes narrowed at the man. You are called Mocha Akashiya, are you not? I am your classmate Saizo Komiya. Salutations. He came up to Naruto while speaking still with Mocha. By the way, while is a beautiful lady like yourself associating with a couple of losers like the... What th? Saizo went to grab Naruto by the throat only to find himself choking what looked to be like a large Hello Kitty doll. Both Sukune and Mocha sweat dropped at how pathetic Saizo looked holding onto a little girl's play doll. Well, who knew, laughed Naruto, who knew that the big bad man on campus liked playing with little girl toys. With that, most of the hall began to snicker at the larger seething man. Sensing his anger, Mocha grabbed both Naruto and Sukune, running off in the distance, leaving the douchey man in his rage with his new doll. How dare he? He said to himself. Mocha Akashiya, you will be mine, after I rip that blonde bastard apart limb from him. Ripping the poor kitty's head from its body. In the halls a little ways away from the incident that just happened, both Mocha and Sukune were taking a breather while Naruto was just looking upon them, wondering what was going on. Well, that was a little scary, wasn't it? Said Mocha with a smile. How did you end up doing that, by the way, Naruto-kun? She asked the blonde with curiosity in her eyes. Sukune also wanted to know what the heck happened back there. It was all kind of just random. What are you talking about? Questioned Naruto, getting kind of nervous. I thought that one of you did that. Crap. I can't let them know that I'm a human, at least not yet, he thought. Both just looked at him curiously, then just shrugged it off as something else that was weird about the academy. Then Sukune spoke up about something that has been bothering him for a while. By the way, guys, why are you guys being so nice to me? He asked, causing both the blonde and the pink-haired girl to look at him. I mean, I'm just some worthless mediocre guy. Don't say that, cried Mocha. To me you're not mediocre or worthless or anything, Sukune. Yay, man. Naruto added. Maybe you seem average, but hey, I can tell you got a great heart on you, man. You're the kind of person who will be there by your friend's side when they need it. That doesn't make you mediocre, that just makes you awesome, he said with a guy-like grin, holding his thumb up. Mocha, NN Naruto, you guys? Sukune stuttered, his eyes watering from the nice things that his new friends and said. Then he saw Mocha get red. Besides, Mocha started, we're on blood-sucking terms, she said with a large blush on her face. Sukune face faulted after that while Naruto was just plain confused. What the hell does that mean? Naruto thought, looking between the two. Then Sukune noticed Naruto's confusion. Oh yay, Naruto, Mocha's a vampire, he stated as though it was the most normal thing in the world. Rig he thought as he was looking at Mocha. Sukune, cried Mocha, we aren't supposed to tell each other what kind of monster we are. Sukune gained a sheepish expression after this. It's cool. Vampire, huh? That seems pretty cool to me, Naruto said, getting a surprised expression from the vampire. Why, you mean you don't hate vampires or anything? Asked Mocha shyly, causing Naruto to cock his head in confusion. Kawaii, she thought. No, not really. I mean, why would I? Naruto questioned before he was enveloped in a flying glomp. Oh, thank you, cried Mocha, cutting off the oxygen supply to Naruto's body. Swinging the teen around like a rag doll, she continued. You don't know how much this means to me that now I have another friend who knows that I am a vampire. Sukune in the meanwhile was in the background with a sweat drop forming on his head at seeing his friend about to perish from lack of oxygen. You Mocha? He said, causing her to look at him. You might want to let him go. She looked at the boy in her hands and say that part of his soul was leaving his body before she jumped back, embarrassed from her actions. GG Gomen, she said. I just got really excited, that's all, she said with a cute embarrassed smile. Naruto picked himself up and wheezing and smiling as well. It's fine. Just glad that we can be friends, that's all, Naruto replied with a smile, causing the girl to smile as well. Holy shit. I think she's as strong as Sakura-chan, he thought. Well, I gotta get going and unpack some of my things, so I will catch you two later, alright? He asked. Sure. Okay, Naruto. Both Mocha and Sukune said, waving goodbye to their new friend. Naruto then took off to his new living quarters, leaving both Sukune and Mocha alone. I wonder what type of monster Naruto is? Mocha asked out loud before chomping down on Sukune's neck, causing him to cry out. Kapu-chu. Naruto continued walking along his path, reading a book. Not really reading his book, Naruto was reminiscing about his past, not really paying attention where he was going when he accidentally bumped into someone else, causing them to drop their books and fall down. Hey! Cried a female voice. Naruto looked down and saw a blue-haired with purple eyes and a yellow sweater. She was very attractive, and he also noticed how well developed this girl was as well. Holy crap! Thought Naruto. What's up with the girls at this school? Her breasts are as big as Ba-chan's. Naruto then bent down and started gathering her books. I'm sorry about that, miss. I wasn't really paying attention to where I was going. I really am sorry, he said while offering another hand to help her up. She just smiled at this and grabbed the offered hand. It's alright, I suppose, she said before gaining a sultry look. I bet you just wanted to peek up my panties, didn't you? At this, Naruto choked on his own saliva. No, he sputtered. I promise that's not what was happening. Naruto said quickly with his hands up shaking back and forth. Enough women in his lifetime have rained hell on him and his sensei for perverted tendencies. Even if the situation wasn't even that perverted, he still got beaten up. Maybe it was just kunoichi, but still, he was deathly afraid of the female hand of righteousness. Ha 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 ha. The blue-haired girl couldn't help but start laughing at the poor blonde. She had to hold her sides, she was laughing so hard. Naruto just gained a confused look at that. Ha yeah, sorry about that, she said after she had calmed down a little bit. I couldn't help myself, she smiled, but you were just going to be so much fun to tease, I can tell you that. Sticking out her hand she said, the name's Kurumu Kurono by the way. Naruto glanced at the hand making sure it wasn't a trick before taking it and giving her his best foxy grin said, Hey Kurumu-chan, I'm Naruto Uzumaki, nice to meet you. Kurumu just grinned at him more as he helped her with the rest of her books that she was carrying. Sorry about that. Here, let me help you carry these books for you since I gave you so much trouble, he said smiling. Kurumu just nodded and latched onto his arm. Day 1. Mission accomplished. Soon every boy here will fall for me just as you have Naruto-kun. Then I will have found my destined one for sure, she thought walking with Naruto down the hall. The next morning Naruto woke up, got dressed and left his room for classes, when he noticed a panic-looking Sukune freaking out about something with 2 large luggage bags in his hands. Hey Sukune! He yelled, causing the panicked boy to look at him. What are you doing? We're going to be late for classes. He saw a sad smile reach across his friend's face. I can't handle this, Naruto. I just can't do it. Sukune said, I just want to go to a normal school. A human one, you know, and be normal. This caused Naruto to tilt his head to the side in confusion. Why's that? The blonde asked, is it because you are a human? Causing Sukune's eyes to open wide in fear and look at the blonde. How did you know? Sukune asked. Naruto just laughed and shook his head. You just told me now. Also, I kinda saw you freaking out yesterday when Shizuka-sensei was saying how humans would get killed if they were discovered for being here. Also, you just said you wanted to be normal. Why would you want to be normal and go to a normal human school? I mean, it's possible for a monster to want to do that, but not really likely. Besides, I was just guessing. I really didn't know until you said that. The blonde smiled at the wide-eyed boy. But that's okay. He continued, causing Sukune to look up right at him with wide eyes. Because I think that this place would be pretty boring if I was the only human here in the academy. Sukune's jaw just dropped after hearing this. Why you mean that why you're a who? He stuttered, pointing a finger at the blonde. A human? Naruto asked. Yep, born and raised as one. Smiling at his friend. And friends, especially human friends, have to look out for each other, right? But aren't you afraid? Sukune asked, wondering how he was not freaking out when earlier he was almost peeing his pants about ghosts. The blonde scratched his head and frowned a little. Well, yeah, a little, he replied. But what I mean, we should be safe, right? Cause others can't show their true forms, right? So we should be good. Sukune was about to tell him his experience with Saizo, but the blonde beat him to it. And even if a monster does show his ugly face, we'll be there to kick their ass together, right, buddy? Naruto had a huge grin on his face and wrapped an arm around the terrified boy. This guy, Sukune thought. He's really the only friend I have ever had, and here I am running away from him. Naruto broke him out of his thoughts. Well, whatever you decide, let me know. I want you here, but if you feel strongly about going, that's fine too. Just make sure you leave with me your address and stuff. I want to keep in contact with you. The blonde said. But, come on, it will be a blast if you stay here. And Mocha-chan also would love it, I'm sure. And not just for the blood-sucking stuff either. The blonde urged the scared boy. Uzumaki. Someone yelled. Oh, said the blonde with wide eyes. Sukune gave him a questioning glance. Who's that? He asked. Naruto started backing up and slowly and started to nervously speak. Well, you see, I might have pulled probably one of my more badass pranks in the headmaster's office, so hey, let me know what goes on. And you better not leave without saying goodbye to me first, the blonde said angrily. Both then saw a dust cloud in the distance getting bigger. Well, gotta see you later, Sukune. The blonde said quickly before running away. Sukune just looked at the running blonde, thinking about what he said before he heard a kapuchu. Man, all I did was give that place a little color, that's all, Naruto said to himself as he was walking through the dead forest. Kami knows that that place could have used it. And why not with the greatest color in the world, the one blessed by Kami? If you don't know which color I'm talking about, go see what the heck Naruto constantly wears. Crash. Naruto's eyes lit up at that. Honing in on his senses, he starts jumping in the trees towards the disturbance he heard. Tsukune. He hears a female voice cry. That's Mocha. The Bond thought, urgently picking up his speed. Tsukune was on the ground bleeding underneath some gravestones while Mocha was running up to him. Grabbing him crying, she looks over him. How horrible. Even though you came all the way back for me, this happened. Tsukune starts to feel tears drip on his face. I'm sorry, after all, humans and monsters are very different, aren't they? Because I'm a vampire. I suck blood of humans and just end up hurting humans. The truth is the whole time I just felt like I wanted to make a friend, even if it was just at a human school. Hearing this gave strength to Tsukune's heart. Shaking, he started to get up while Mocha's eyes widened. I'm a weak, he started, worthless guy, Mocha. But I realized it wasn't right running back home and parting with both you and Naruto like that. Mocha's eyes widened at hearing the blonde's name. Because I want to be both of your friends, Mocha. Mocha started to cry right there while a huge shadow came over them. What the hell are you guys babbling about? Saizo screamed. Just die now, scum. As he threw a large fist heading for Tsukune. They both closed their eyes waiting for the hit, then heard. Dynamic entry. They opened their eyes wide to that and say a blonde teen deliver a flying kick in the air to the giant orc's face. The orc flew off crashing into some dead trees dazed by the kick while the blonde just landed in a crouch in front of the two baffled teens. Looking back, he smiled at them both. See, Tsukune, he started, you're the type of guy who is there whenever you are needed the most. Smiling, he stood up. No mediocre or worthless guy would ever do what you just did for Mocha. You, Tsukune, are a goddamn hero in my book and someone who is precious to me as well. Smiling with his thumb up while Tsukune went wide-eyed at the blonde's proclamation. Naruto, he thought. You too, Mocha-chan. We'll get to know each other more, but you two are another precious person to me. Declared Naruto, getting another wide-eyed teen. And with that, Naruto narrowed his eyes at his enemy who was started to slowly get back up. I will protect the both of you with my life, he yelled, nothing but determination coming from him. Naruto-kun. Both Mocha and Tsukune thought. Tsukune. Naruto said with a seriousness that he had never seen the blonde have before. Take Mocha-chan with you and get out of here. Tsukune went wide-eyed again. Keep her safe, I'll take care of this trash over here. Naruto, you can't do that, Tsukune cried. You have no chance against that thing, you're human too. This caused Mocha's eyes to go wide. That thing can punch through concrete walls, he'll destroy you, cried Tsukune, fearing the worst for his friend. Doesn't matter, Naruto said quietly, causing Tsukune to look at him in confusion. I will protect the both of you. Now get out of here, yelled Naruto as he pushed Tsukune towards Mocha while running at the behemoth who was now on his feet. You think you can take me, puny monster? Yelled an enraged Saizo. I'll rip off your head. He too began charging the blonde. Both pulled back their fists, getting ready for a badass haymaker on the other when they were blown back by a force that came out of nowhere. Looking around, they say a bright light enveloped the other teens who were off to the side. They couldn't see anything for a while, then as soon as the light died down they say Tsukune off to the side with a confused look on his face holding the cross that was around Mocha's neck. Then they saw another person. She was wearing the same thing as Mocha was, but she had long silver hair. Her eyes were red and slitted as well, surprising Naruto greatly. Not only that, but her figure had become more developed and womanly. One could honestly say that this was the definition of sexy. But the most staggering difference they felt was the energy that was pouring off of the woman. It was radical. If Naruto had to guess, it would have been like if he was in sage mode. He could literally feel Saizo shaking in fear at the energy she was radiating. Just like the legends, the orc began, red eyes, and intense supernatural energy. This is a super vampire, he cried, looking enraged as well. The woman glanced over Tsukune, who was still baffled by her appearance, then glanced at Naruto, who had the same look. She gave him a nod before saying, "What's wrong, Rogue One?" in a sultry voice. "You want me, right? Placing a hand over your well-developed breasts, just try to take me by force, big boy." Naruto, still in his daze, was backhanded by orc off to the side and lunged for Mocha, hand outstretched. "Macaw!" cried Tsukune, fearing for her life. All of a sudden the orc's hand was caught. Saizu's eyes widened. Attack with this degree of power, Mocha started. Why doesn't she even be bat an eye? Saizo thought fearfully. A sneer then came across the beautiful girl's face. You had better know your place, she yelled while kicked the shit out of the orc's face. blood and teeth leaving from the spot she kicked. The orc then flew through several trees and probably was still going for another mile or so before his stopped. A low-class monster like you who has nothing to show for his size. Doesn't even make for a decent opponent in a contest of strength. Holy shit. Thought our blonde hero. She's at least as strong as Sakura-chan and Ba-chan. Having seen the kick and getting pissed off for being brushed out of the fight. Now not minding as much seeing the results. He saw her walk over to Sukune and smirk. You scared of this, Mocha? She questioned him, seeing him freeze up. She grabbed the cross out of his hand and said, Don't get so worried, this me who has not awoken from slumber for a long time is still tired. I have no intention of harming you. As your blood is very delicious to my sleeping self. She finished with a hand on his cheek. She then turned in Naruto's direction, getting an eyebrow raise out of the blonde. Walking over to him, she stopped about a foot away from him, staring intensely into his eyes. Seconds passed and Naruto was becoming increasingly uncomfortable with the beauty in front of him. Never really one to be on the receiving end of so much attention. He was about to say something when he was suddenly cut off by the vampire. You are a very interesting person, Naruto Uzumaki, she said slowly. There are not many humans today that have the kind of eyes that you possess. Shocking the blonde. You are not even remotely intimidated by my power, are you, Uzumaki-san? She asked the blonde, only getting a shrug from him, causing her to chuckle. You intrigue me greatly, Uzumaki-san, she said, smiling, moving closer to the blonde as he stiffened and became nervous. Ah, Mocha-chan, what umph? She interrupted him as she pinned him to a tree and put a hand over his mouth. Struggling to get out of her grip, he could feel her breath on his neck that sent shivers down his spine. She was using her body to pin most of his down, and he could feel every curve and every mound that the grill possessed, causing his teenage hormones to go crazy. Taking in his scent, she let out a soft moan. You have a delicious smell, Uzumaki, she stated dreamily. Her fangs became more prominent and was about to bite the blonde before she stopped. She moved back, looking at the struggling blonde in front of her before smiling. Not yet, Uzumaki, she said, causing the blonde to momentarily stop struggling. I want to see who you are first before I take you blood from you. Smirking as she dropped the bewildered blonde. I look forward to finding out why someone like you is capable of having the kind of eyes that you do. Until then, take care of the sentimental other Mocha for me, will you? With that, she put the Rosario back on her choker, causing her to revert back to her pink-haired self, falling on top of him like a rag doll. Silence permeated the area at that moment, both Sukune and Naruto wondering what the hell just happened. Then, the blonde's stomach growled loudly, breaking the silence. Turning to the other boy, he asked, Su, you want to go get some ramen? A week had gone by in the academy since the whole Saizo incident, with the whole school believing that Naruto kicked the living shit out of the molester. Walking down the halls, students left and right were avoiding Naruto like the plague out of fear that he would go crazy and deliver a can of whoop ass upon themselves. Well, this is a familiar feeling. The blonde thought bitterly, looking at the students who were trying to avoid making eye contact with him. Frowning at how the other students were acting towards him, he continued down the hall, reading the book that he was holding. Naruto-kun. He heard a cry from down the hall. Looking up, he smiled when he saw a familiar busty blue-haired girl running to greet him. Hey Kurumu-chan. What's up? He asked as the girl gave a little skip before stopping in front of him. You ready for home economics? She asked with a confident grin. Of course, Kurumu-chan, he replied as they were entering the classroom, putting his book away. Kurumu gave a curious glance at the book. Hey Naruto-kun. Why are you always reading that anyways? She asked. It seems like every time I see you, you have that book out. Naruto just looked at the bag where he put his book and gave a sad smile, surprising the girl. It's a book one of my senseis wrote. I like reading it because it kind of lets me never forget him, you know, he said to the blue-haired succubus. Kurumu remained quiet, thinking. I've never seen Naruto-kun sad about anything before. I wonder what happened, she thought before the teacher began to speak. Alright class. Today we are going to individually be making whatever you want, and I will be giving a grade to you by the end of class. Alright? Begin, the teacher said, making the students rush to their sections to grab all of their supplies to begin making something worthwhile. Naruto and Kurumu just looked at each other with a competitive glance before racing off to get their own ingredients for their respective dishes. An hour later, Kurumu just stared at the dish that laid in front of her. Ramen, she deadpanned at the dish. Of course, said the blonde. What else would be able to give me an A in the class other than the dish from Kami herself? He declared, causing the blue-hair girl's eye to twitch. She smacked him upside the head. How about something that doesn't come in an instant bowl, you idiot? She said, annoyed. You could have actually worked on something better if you hadn't been helping me here and there. God, Naruto-kun, sometimes you're just too nice for your own good. Now you're not going to get a good grade, she said, feeling kinda guilty because the blonde had been watching over her things as well as his. How he did that, she wasn't too sure about. Smiling sheepishly while rubbing the back of his head, meh. Don't worry about it too much, Kurumu-chan, I'm sure everything will work out fine in the end. I mean, come on, ramen is awesome, he exclaimed, causing the girl to just roll her eyes and smile. She couldn't help it. Naruto just made her smile whenever she was around him. He just seemed to have a pure nature around him. She had found out real quickly that he wasn't a pervert like most of the boys in the school, he just liked Kurumu for who she was. Plain and simple. She had never had that relationship with someone like that before. She didn't really know what to make of it. Sure, he was innocent, and she loved to take advantage of that almost daily. What could she say? She loved to tease him. God, she loved to tease him. His reactions were just too cute and hilarious. Ramen Uzumaki-san, really? The teacher came over, interrupting their little conversation. Sometimes I wonder if you even want to be in this class, boy. Alright, let's get this over with. The teacher sat down and took out her chopsticks to take a bite. She took a bite and began to chew, but stopped in mid-chew with wide eyes. Slowly she looked at the bowl, then at the boy who made it, then back at the bowl, swallowing the noodles. Oh my god. This ramen is like a gift from Kami. She cried out, surprising a blue-haired girl and getting a grin from the blonde. She started scarfing down the ramen at inhuman rates to get more of that delicious taste. Kurumu just stared at the teacher, wide-eyed by her reaction, then at the grinning blonde who gave her the guy-sensei smile with a thumbs up. What did I tell you, Kurumu-chan, he said. Kami's gift to us. The blue-haired girl just giggled at his antics. The teacher stood up and wiped her mouth with a napkin. Uzumaki-san, that was delicious, she said with a smile. You made a simple dish turn out to be one of the most delicious things that I have ever tasted. For that, you get a solid A. Silence permeated throughout the room. Say what? Naruto quietly replied, just staring at her. Kurumu was speechless. Why didn't he get an A+ if it tasted so good? Seeing his confusion, she decided to elaborate her reason for the grade. You see, Uzumaki-san, she began, 90% of the meal itself is all about how it tastes. But there has to be some effort put into the presentation of the meal. Causing Naruto to blink. You see, when I first saw this bowl of ramen, one thought it was just going to be an ordinary bowl of ramen. I wasn't excited to eat it at all. She continued while Naruto was trying to internally deal with the blasphemy that the woman was stating left and right in front of him. I mean, come on, who wouldn't be excited to eat a bowl of ramen no matter how boring it looked? If you add a couple of ingredients to give it more color and flair, that would make this dish truly a dish from Kami. She ended with a smile before walking away. With that, the bell rang and students began to exit the room. Naruto, still in his shell-shocked state, was taken out of it when he saw a hand waving back and forth in front of him. Hello? Questioned Kurumu, gaining the blonde's attention. Immediately the blonde crossed his arms, leaving the room with her while muttering something about people not knowing if something from Kami if it slapped them in the face. She giggled once again at his behavior. He then started in another direction than the blue-haired girl was going. Where are you going, Naruto-kun? She asked, getting the blonde's attention once again. I'm off to eat the Sukune and Mocha-chan for lunch, he replied happily. You want to come? He offered. Kurumu was silent for a bit after she heard a certain pink-haired girl's name. Mocha, Akashiya? She questioned the blonde slowly, causing the blonde to tilt his head to the side in confusion. Kawaii, she mentally saved that image of him in her internal hard drive in her brain. But now wasn't the time to focus on that, she had more important matters to deal with. Yay. They're like two of my closest friends, he said, then getting a grin. You should meet them, I'm sure that they would just love you. Kurumu just blinked and smiled sadly. Go ahead, Naruto-kun. She sighed, causing the blonde to become even more confused. I have a couple of things that I need to get done, but maybe later, K? She said with a smile. Naruto just laughed and nodded, then going his separate way. Not noticing the girl he left behind clenching her fists. So that's why he's not infatuated with me, she thought. 'Cause he hanging around with that whore. She had found it odd that Naruto wasn't worshipping her like all the other boys in the school were. She could tell that he was attracted to her, but she wanted him at her mercy. She stormed down the hall in a rage, planning her revenge on a certain vampire for ruining her plans at the academy. That night. Damn it, Naruto yelled, throwing papers, scrolls and ink all over the place. Strange symbols could be seen drawn all around his room, along with different books of theory of Fuinjutsu. I don't need to fucking absorb chakra. I need something to fix chakra, damn it. Naruto sat down angrily, glaring at the book's scrolls and a piece of paper he had in front of him. He then heard a knock on his door. Getting up and calming down, the teen answered the door to find Sukune on the other side. Hey Naruto. He said nervously, you okay, man? I heard a lot of yelling and I was wondering if you were alright, he said, glancing and seeing the mess that was inside. Naruto just smiled at the concern of his new friend. I'm fine, Sukune. I'm just having a little trouble figuring out a couple of homework assignments, he said, then getting a confused look from the teen in front of him he elaborated, when I get stressed or confused, I tend to work off my stress by working out, lifting weights or push-ups. That kind of stuff. Sukune nodded, somewhat understanding what the blonde was trying to convey. So what's up? Is that it? The blonde asked. Sukune hesitated. Well, it's about Mocha-san, said in a low voice, surprising the blonde. What do you mean? You two are great friends, the blonde said. Just like me and you, right? Sukune smiled at that but continued. Well, I'm feeling like Mocha is just hanging around me to just suck my blood, he said, getting an eyebrow raise from the blonde. I mean, what else would a beautiful girl like her be hanging out with a guy like M? Hey, he cried out as the blonde smacked him upside his head. What the hell was that for? He shouted. For being a dumbass, Naruto said, causing the boy to quiet down. Do you really think a girl like Mocha would do something like that? We both know her, Sukune, and you're telling me that you don't trust her? He glared at the boy. WWL no B, but, Sukune started, but nothing. Do you think that my friendship with Mocha-chan is based off of nothing as well? Our friendship was formed through you, Naruto pointed out. Sukune, you're just thinking too much of things. All of us are friends, just accept it. We all have our weird quirks. I don't just keep you around to pull stupid pranks on you all the time. That gotta grumble out Sukune something about leaving fake spiders all in his bed and underwear drawer. The same with Mocha-chan. We're all friends, don't worry about it. Naruto finished with a wave of his hand, causing Sukune to smile. Thanks Naruto, he said quietly, you really are a good friend. Naruto just looked at him before grinning. Alright, enough of this emotional crap, he said, smiling. Any more and I'll have to take you on a pranking mission to cheer us up, causing the boy to smile even more. What the hell is a pranking mission, he thought, sounds exciting. I got some more studies to get done tonight, so I'll see you tomorrow-ite? We'll hang out after classes, okay? Getting a nod from the boy, Naruto said goodbye and shut the door, turning around to the mess that he created before. Picking things up, he started to clean the ink off of the scrolls and books it had poured onto. 10 minutes later, when everything was clean again, he sat down on his bed in a meditative stance and started to control his breathing. The next thing he knew, he was in a sewer, in front of a large cage. A small seal could be found on the padlock of the cell. Naruto quietly walked up to the cage and put his hand slowly on the bars of it. Eyes watering, he looked at the creature that dwelled within the prison cell. Clenching his fist until it drew blood, he turned away and started walking away from the cell. With determination and tears in his eyes, he silently spoke, "Don't worry, Kurama. I will find a way to heal you. That is my promise of a lifetime." Leaving the sleeping creature alone in his cage. 4:30 a.m. The ungodly sound of an alarm clock went off in Naruto's room. Activating a seal on the palm of Naruto's hand, a kunai shot out and pierced the cursed thing, sticking it to the wall while the sound slowly faded away, allowing the cursed piece of machinery to die a gruesome death. The blonde slowing opened his eyes and stretched. I really need to find a better way to hide my training, he said to himself, getting out of bed and grabbing his training gear. He over his outfit to make sure there were no substantial damages done to the armor. It was a standard Anbu-issued armor with a nodaichi. Naruto, giving a nod to show that there was nothing wrong with it, put it on and jumped out the window to find a clearing for him to train. 2 hours later, if one were to venture into the dead forest, they would see something quite unusual. There in the middle of a pond stood a man with blonde hair and 3 whisker lines on the sides of his face. He was sweating profusely and breathing heavily. Around the blonde were 6 identical copies of him, each in a stance that showed they were ready to attack at any given moment. A bird cried out from a distance, signaling the clones to all attack the original. The original grabbed a fist that was coming from behind. He added chakra to the other hand and threw it at the attacker, palm open, where a sickle came spinning out attached to a chain, slicing the clone in half. Using the chain, Naruto blocked 5 other kicks that were aiming for the top of his head. Erg, he grunted before throwing off the extra weight. On the other end of the chain was a lengthened kunai. He jerked the chain in a direction to cause the kunai to shoot out at one of the clones, piercing it in the skull, dispelling it. Grabbing the kunai in his hand, he started to swing the sickled end around in a deadly manner. The 4 other clones got into their stances and charged in for an attack. Even before they were halfway there, Naruto's eyes widened in surprise as another clone came up from under the water in his defense zone. Wrapping his arm around the chain, the clone then kicked the original, effectively taking the weapon away from the blonde. Naruto's eyes narrowed as the other clones split into different directions. A couple of the clones threw a couple shurikens at the blonde, grinning as they made different hand signs. Cage shuriken no jutsu, they cried. Suddenly a couple of shurikens turned into hundreds. Naruto added chakra to a seal on this other hand and absorbed the shuriken before using his other hand to launch the metal objects at the other clones, dispelling 3 more. Naruto looked up to see a clone with an incoming blue orb in the palm of his hand heading straight for him. Rasengan! Cried the clone. Naruto concentrated his chakra to the seal in his hand and met the attack with his palm out. Struggling for a bit, the original finally was able to absorb the attack before spinning around with his other hand extended to the clone who was coming up behind him. Rasengan! The blonde whispered as the blue ball of energy that the other clone had made formed in his palm and blew the other clone away. Space-time seals, the blonde thought. Gotta love them. Spinning around again with his other palm out, a 3-pronged kunai came flying out of his hand, aiming for the last clone. Barely able to dodge it, the clone slid to one side only to be wrapped by ninja wire before being cut in half by a giant shuriken wheel. The original sighed in relief as he saw the last of his clones go down. Flimsy as they may be, they still are a deadly training method to be working with. Naruto went over to gather his equipment. Picking up a 3-pronged kunai, he thought, well, I guess I can finally use the Hiroshin in battle now. How my old man was able to latch seals on people is a mystery I need to figure out. Going over to his other equipment, still thinking about his battle simulation, I'm able to incorporate the fuinjutsu I've been studying for the most part. Looking at his wrist, these gravity seals are awesome. I should have started with these from the start. Glancing at what looked like to be a land of fire symbol on his bicep, I still need to test that out and see if that works as well. He thought, grinning at the prospects of the drawing on his arm. Looking up, it seemed to be getting brighter, cue for him to get his butt in gear and get ready for school. After a quick run, he headed to his room, showered and got dressed for the day. Putting on his suit jacket, he looked inside at the different intricate designs that he had made from sewing a special blend of thread into the fabric. He remembered when he asked a cute pink-haired vampire to teach him how to sew. Sure, he knew how to sew flesh in the middle of a battlefield, but sewing on fabric takes a more feminine touch. Flashback no jutsu. You want me to do what? A surprised Mocha asked as a certain blonde teen nervously stood in front of her with a slight blush on his face. I asked if you could help me learn to sew, he said. He was looking everywhere but at the girl. Please, Mocha-chan. A lot of times I find myself just getting rips and tears in my clothes, and I was hoping you could teach me to sew, he cried out with his hands in front of him in a pleading fashion. Mocha couldn't help but giggle at the sight of the blonde. Sure, Naruto-kun, chirped Mocha, getting a huge grin from the blonde, and he leapt up in celebration while picking up the girl swinging around in a circle. While surprised at the act, Mocha couldn't help but enjoy the happiness that the blonde gave off at such a simple request. Oh, thank you, Mocha-chan, said Naruto with a grin. I promise I'll repay you back sometime, causing the girl to smile at Naruto. End flashback no jutsu. Shaking off the memory, Naruto started to move on to his classroom while reading his book that he always seemed to have out. What is that girl? A pink hair vampire asked herself. What is she to Sukune? They really looked like lovers, didn't they? Totally all over each other like that. Her thoughts were interrupted by a shout. Mocha-chan. She looked up to see her friend Naruto coming down the hall to her. She quickly gathered herself up and smiled at the blonde. Hello, Naruto-kun. How are you? She said with a strained face. Naruto's eyebrow just rose at that. Mocha-chan. What's wrong? The blonde asked the girl, causing the girl's face to become even more strained. Nothing is wrong, Naruto-kun. Why would you think that? She asked, slightly panicking that the teen had already seen through her. Mocha-chan, we're friends, right? The blonde asked, causing the girl to look at him curiously before she nodded her head. I can tell when something is wrong with my friends. So just tell me, what's going on? Mocha hesitated before she began to tell Naruto about what had transpired between her and Sukune, then later when she saw another girl hanging onto to him. I think that Sukune-kun only thinks that I am his friend because of his blood and whack. Itai. She mumbled out, rubbed a sore spot on the side of her head from where Naruto smacked her. Mocha-chan, Don't be an idiot. Sukune absolutely adores you. Naruto said, causing the girl to look up at him. I mean, that much is obvious, but if you honestly feel that way, then just talk to him. Do other things with him. You know how you taught me how to sew. That's what friends do. Hang out with him, get to know who the real Sukune is, you know. The blonde finished as a light of understanding could be seen come across the girl's face. Naruto then brushed a couple of strands of hair affectionately out of her face. Now, I don't want to see another frown on that face, alright? He said, getting a nod and a smile with a light blush from the girl. Good. Now go find him and talk to him. I'll see you later, Mocha-chan. Naruto said with a wave as he started down the hallway. Mocha just looked after the retreating figure. Something about Naruto made her feel like she could do just about anything. Maybe it's his eyes. She thought, when I look at them, it's like he knows there isn't anything he couldn't do. She continued thinking about the blonde with a small blush on her face. Realizing what she was thinking about, her face flushed even more. What am I doing? I like Sukune. Naruto is just a really good friend, that's all. Besides, she paused, I don't think that he will ever see me that way. She started making her way down the hall, even more confused than before. After another lovely class period, Naruto was walking side by side with Kurumu, both talking about unimportant things in life. I just don't get it, Kurumu-chan. Naruto gave a loud sigh while Kurumu just giggled at the blonde's new dilemma. You got fruit, good, cake, even better, fruitcake, nasty crap. The girl started laughing at the blonde's simple problem. It's okay, Naruto-kun, it's just one of those mysteries of life we'll never solve, she said with a smile while the blonde mumbled something about crappy fruit that doesn't even taste like cake. They then came to the point where they usually parted ways. Kurumu stopped, though, thinking about something. Today's the day that I take out that pink whore, she thought while getting a confused look from Naruto. I don't want to do this to Naruto, he's probably the nicest guy the first have ever met, but if I use that charm, he would never find out. Naruto, on the other hand, was waving his hand in front of her face, trying to get her attention. Healu. Kurumu-chan, you there, he yelled, causing the girl to jump back with fright. Sorry, Naruto-kun, she stammered, just got lost in thought there. Naruto smiled at that. No worries, Kurumu-chan, happens all the time to me, he said. Turning to walk down the other way, he started, well, say. He felt a tug on his arm, stopping him from going any further. Looking back, he saw Kurumu looking at the ground, a little nervous. What's up, Kurumu-chan? He asked. The girl was now biting her bottom lip. Naruto, she paused. Would you be willing to help me with something? She asked him, getting him to blink in confusion before grinning happily. Of course, Kurumu-chan, whatever you need, he declared. Stealing her resolve, she grabbed his face and looked straight into his eyes, making him go wide-eyed in surprise. Then, forgive me, she whispered before activating her charm, kissing him. A pink-haired girl sat on the steps outside of a building, mopping around, thinking about her predicament. I wonder what I am to Sukune, she said. Do I really just want to suck his blood? Tears started to form in her eyes. Naive one. Sukune is just being manipulated. A voice came out of nowhere, causing the girl to give a startled cry. It's called charm. It's a work of sorcery which turns the opposite sex into your slave. Didn't Naruto already tell you that you were precious to Sukune? Stop being pathetic, little girl. What's going on? A voice coming from the rosary. Mocha cried out, a little bit fearful. I am another you. I'm using the rosary as a medium through which to talk to you from deep within your psyche. A dawn of realization came across Mocha's face. The succubus is a monster that seduces males. A male who receives a kiss from a succubus is doomed to be her slave for all eternity. Inner Mocha stated, causing outer Mocha to go wide-eyed. We have to go stop her, she yelled out and started running to find Sukune before it was too late. Minutes later, Mocha was running down a hallway, trying her best to find Sukune before the spell was finally placed on him. Mocha-chan. She heard someone call her. She turned around and found Naruto walking up to her. Hey Mocha-chan, what's the rush? Relief went to her eyes as she saw her friend. Naruto-kun, quick, we have to find Sukune-kun, she cried out, getting a confused look from the blonde. If we don't, something really bad is going to happen to him. Naruto just scratched his head. Actually, he started getting a look from the girl. I just saw Sukune, he stated. The girl's eyes widened. Really? Where? She cried. I just saw him at the infirmary. He took a tumble down some stairs and got banged up really bad. Naruto said with a sad look. I just saw him 5 minutes ago. Now they're not letting anyone visit him. The nurse says he has to rest. Relief and worry came across the pink-haired vampire's face. At least he would be safe for not. Come on Mocha-chan, let's go get some ramen to eat or something. Naruto said. The girl was about to accept his proposal before she saw something in his eyes. Nothing. It was like staring into a soulless person. There was no emotion, no life, nothing. He is already under the girl's spell, Inner Mocha stated. Quickly, you must get away from him and find Sukune, she said with urgency. Naruto, I think I am going to go see Sukune-kun anyways. I'm really worried for him. Mocha said, getting a strained smile come from the blonde. But Mocha-chan, they're not letting anybody visit right now. Come on Mocha-chan, he's probably already asleep. Now let me tell you the history of ancient ramen making. He began trying to put an arm around Mocha to lead her away only for her to move underneath his arm. No, she cried out, I'm going to go see Sukune-kun. She turned to run the other direction towards the infirmary only to blink in surprise when she saw the blonde directly in front of her. I'm sorry Mocha-chan, Naruto now said void of any smile or emotion whatsoever. I cannot let you interrupt Kurumu-sama right now for any reason. He went to grab the girl only for her to shove him 3 feet into a nearby wall. I'm sorry Naruto-kun, I'll make it up to you later, Mocha yelled as she ran off to go save Sukune. Naruto lay in the wall, arms twitching sporadically. Why does every girl I associate with have the ability to one way or another kick my ass? Zombie Naruto thought before digging himself out of the crater in the wall. Kya. Naruto's lifeless eyes opened. That was Kurumu-sama. I must hurry, he said using a shushin to make his travel faster. Calm yourself, that attack was too straightforward, said the calm mocking voice of a silver-haired vampire landed on the ground in front of a downed succubus. Though you act like a little devil, you're just a naive little girl, she said with a wicked grin. Kurumu just shrank as the vampire came closer to her. I'll make it so you can never walk again. Tears were now forming in the succubus's eyes. Then all of a sudden, a blur appeared in front of the downed girl. I'm sorry Mocha-chan, the blonde said with a smile while looking at her with his emotionless eyes. I don't want to fight you, but I won't let any harm come to Kurumu-sama. Finished the teen taking a fighting stance. Mocha narrowed her eyes at the blonde. Naruto, she said sharply, you are under her spell. Snap out of it, Naruto looked at her blankly. I don't know what you are talking about Mocha-chan, all I know is that I won't let you lay a hand on Kurumu-sama, he said emotionlessly. Kurumu's eyes widened. What is he doing here? She thought. I told him to stay away from this place. Mocha gave an annoying click with her tongue. If you do not move, I will be forced to move you Naruto, she said, her eyes glaring at the teen threateningly. The blonde shrugged. I don't want to fight you Mocha-chan, but if you force me to, I will attack you, stated Naruto still in his fighting stance. Fine. Mocha yelled, but you asked for it Naruto. With that she disappeared from sight only to reappear in front of the blonde kicking him squarely in the jaw. She felt her foot connect with the blonde's head, but her eyes widened when there was a puff of smoke and there instead was a log that looked like it had been broken apart. Wires then formed around the vampire gripping her tightly. She growled as she was swung around by the wire until she felt a kick connect with her own head. Naruto, having substituted with a log and swing the vampire girl around with his ninja wire roundhouse, kicked the crap out of Mocha. She was sent flying in a random direction, crashing through a couple trees. Naruto landed with a crouch near Kurumu. "NN Naruto-kun." Kurumu whispered, amazed at what had transpired. Sukune also felt that his jaw had fallen off and was left on the ground. What the hell? The boy thought. I know Naruto is human, but how the heck did he pull that off? He noticed Kurumu started to try and get up. Please stay back Kurumu-sama, Naruto stated calmly, causing the succubus to look at him in confusion. This fight is far from over. Please get away while you can. I will hold her off, he said emotionlessly, causing the girl to feel even more guilty at the way she was controlling the blonde. As if on cue, a flying tree was sent their way. Naruto quickly picked up Kurumu and shushined away in a nearby tree. They could see a calm, tattered silver-haired vampire walking to the crater that she had formed with the succubus moments before. I thought there was something different with you Naruto. She started quietly. I don't know exactly what you did there, but that definitely was something no normal human could do. She shot her eyes up on the branch where Naruto and Kurumu were standing. What are you? She asked sharply, leaving no room for question behind. Her curiosity was now overwhelming her. That kick that Naruto had given her didn't hurt much, but there was more power behind that kick than any normal human being should have. What was he? I am your friend Mocha-chan, came the emotionless reply. But I will fight you if you continue to go after Kurumu-sama. Anger rose from the vampire. She glared heatedly at the succubus. How dare you hide behind him like a coward? She yelled at the other girl. You claim that my other self is using Sukune for his blood. You're no better using him as a shield because you are too weak to fight me yourself. Kurumu shivered at the glare the vampire was giving her. BB, but I didn't tell him to come, she said quietly before being interrupted by Naruto. It's all right, Kurumu-sama. I will protect you with my life, he said, a little emotion coming back to his eyes. Mocha narrowed her eyes, getting even angrier at the declaration the blonde had made. And you, Naruto, she said bitterly, causing the emotionless boy to gaze at her. I expected something better from you. Someone of Sukune's caliber was able to break off this weak pathetic excuse of a monster's charm, and you can't. She growled before stopping, eyes widening at a thought that crossed her mind. Unless, she started quietly, you kissed him, didn't you? She yelled at the cowering girl behind Naruto. Sukune now panicked. But that means he's her slave now forever. He shouted in fear for his friend. Mocha was now glaring daggers at the succubus. Not necessarily, she said, getting Sukune to quiet down. Naruto could be this whore's slave forever if she wished it to be, but she can relinquish control over him whenever she so desires it. Not many outside of the succubus race know this because normally succubi don't have any reason to relinquish control over their victims. Sukune's eyes widened. Then that means all we need to do is get her to free Naruto, right? He asked the scary vampire. She clenched her fists tightly and growled. Oh, I'm gonna do more than that to her. She spat out venomously. Release him from your charm now, succubus. She yelled, disappearing from view to reappear behind the girl ready to kick her, only to dodge a shuriken attack from the blonde, causing her to retreat away from the succubus. He then reappeared in front of her and delivered a series of punches and kicks her, only to dodge a shuriken attack from the blonde, causing her to retreat away from the succubus. He then reappeared in front of her and delivered a series of punches and kicks. Mocha started dodging and swatting the attacks away with some difficulty before the girl managed to gain her own ground. Your fighting skills are commendable, she stated with mild excitement. She couldn't help it, it had been ages since anyone of some worth was brought to her for her to release her energy. I wonder what else you are capable of, human. Not a second later she felt the ground move under her. Not knowing what was going on, she jumped back in time to see a pair of hands come out of the ground to try and grab her feet. Hearing something move behind her, she turned around and saw another blonde try slice her with a giant zanbadu that he had somehow taken out of the inside of his green suit. She quickly moved mid-air out of the way, causing the blonde to take a swing, miss, and sail past her. The said blonde spun his body in a couple circles before hurling the giant blade at the vampire. Mocha's eyes widened again, barely able to move out of the way of the blade. Then something caught her eye. Another body grabbed the spinning blade and was coming for a finishing blow right above her. With no time to think, she caught the blade with both of her hands before the thing could bifurcate her. What is going on? She thought before ripping the blade away from the blonde and kicking him in the face, once again disappearing in a puff of smoke. Her eyes widened as she saw a blue spinning ball come through the smoke on the other end, as well as another blonde coming with it. She glanced at the ball quickly. If it hit her, it wouldn't finish her, but it would hurt like hell, and she did not feel like going through tons of pain today. Grabbing the wrist with the ball, she snapped it, while kneeing the boy in the stomach before elbowing him in the back of the head. She felt a kick coming from the back of her head. Grabbing the foot, she broke it until another fist started to race towards her face. What the hell is he? She thought as she grabbed the hand and snapped his arm at the elbow, causing the boy to cry in pain. She thought that was the end of it until she saw that he was coming in for a headbutt. He just won't stop. I need to finish this now or something grave is bound to happen. Grabbing his hair and pulling him to the side, she punched him with a great deal of strength over and over again, until the blonde became unresponsive. Sukune couldn't believe it. Naruto, his best friend, fought like a demon before being nearly beaten to death by the girl who he had a crush on. Mocha released a sigh that she was holding, looking at the bloody, battered-up boy in her hand. She felt guilty for having to go to such an extent, but the blonde would just not go down. He fought like a crazed man with nothing to lose. Her own blood was pumping rapidly and she could feel her adrenaline rushing through her veins. She checked his pulse to make sure he was still alive. A slight relief reached her eyes as she felt that with some medical attention, he should be fine. Admiration and respect filled her eyes as she gently placed the boy on the ground. She had come to respect the boy as she saw him interact with her outer self. He didn't have any arterial motives in being with her. He genuinely just wanted to be friends with her. Sure, Sukune was nice, but he wanted to be with her. Also, Naruto didn't fear her like Sukune did. He carried himself with confidence and his eyes had a look of determination she couldn't help but admire. It excited her actually, and she was getting used to the feeling. And after the way he just fought now, she had to know what he was, but first, she gave a loathful glare at the girl who had caused this whole ordeal. Kurumu had tears falling down her face. Why would Noro-kun do that? I only told him to distract Mocha, not defend me, she thought before she felt a ton of killing intent being pointed directly at her. She went wide-eyed with fear as she saw Mocha get up from beside Naruto and stalk over to her. How dare you, coward? She said with great hate. Using another to protect yourself because you are too weak. The succubus was now shivering with fear as the girl continued towards her. I didn't know, she shouted. I told him to stay away, he wasn't supposed to get involved. She screamed, her heart now almost broken at the betrayal that she caused against the blonde. Mocha narrowed her eyes. Well, he did get involved. You tried to kill two people who meant the world to my other self, succubus. She spat out the word with disgust in her voice. If it was just me, I would just cripple you, but because you made me hurt him, I'm going to kill you. She said with a dark voice, nails and fangs elongating from their places. She continued towards the girl until a certain brown-haired teen moved between the two, rosary in his hands. Sukune, move, she said forcefully. Was this not the woman who not only tried to kill you but manipulated Naruto as well, putting him in the state he is in now? Mocha finished pointing at the bloody blonde that was laying on the ground. Sukune just smiled. That is enough. I don't believe that Kurumu-san was actually doing this out of purely bad intentions, he said, getting a surprised look out of the succubus. It's just that I can't see Kurumu-san as being bad at heart, and I don't think that Naruto would disagree with me either, he said, scratching his chin, grinning. This caused a large blush to appear on Kurumu's face. Just like how the Mocha-san is someone we can depend on, right? He finished. Mocha glared at the boy. Don't misunderstand, boy, snapped Mocha, grabbing the rosary. I just didn't want your blood to be stolen away from me. I'm definitely different from the other Mocha, she said before looking over at the downed blonde boy. Take care of him as well, she said quietly, getting a nod from Sukune before placing the rosary back on her choker, reverting back to the pink-haired ball of joy. She collapsed in Sukune's arms asleep while Sukune just wondered what the heck was going on. He saw Kurumu walk to his side, looking at the ground nervously. I'm terribly sorry for what happened, she blurted out. I never meant for any of this to happen. She looked like she was on the verge of crying. Sukune just smiled. Don't worry, Kurumu-san, everyone makes mistakes, surprising the girl. It's what we make of those mistakes that makes us the people that we are today, he said with a grin, causing the girl to blush a deep shade of red. He then looked over at Naruto. Do you mind if you take Naruto to the infirmary? I'm going to bring Mocha-san there as well. Kurumu nodded fervently before going to the blonde and looking down on him. She could see his broken and bloody face where inner Mocha had unleashed her punches from hell on. She slid her hand down one side of his face. I'm so sorry, Naruto-kun. I promise I will make this up to you, she thought. Suddenly she stopped when she started to hear a low rumble coming from the blonde. She listened closely and noticed that Naruto was actually purring. Kawaii, she thought, saving the blonde's little secret for later. She picked him and with a grunt. Geez, Naruto-kun, you need to lay off the ramen. What? Sukune cried in surprise. The rosary started talking to you. Mocha just nodded at the boy's question. Yay, this time the voice ended up saving us, but it's strange, isn't it? Maybe the seal is weakening, she questioned. Hey, if it comes to the point where the seal doesn't work anymore, Sukune, you would still like me, right? She asked shyly. Of course I will. Sukune jumped and exclaimed. Even if you are a little scary, even if you suck my blood. To me, Mocha-san is Mocha-san. Then he thought about another of his friends, and I am sure that Naruto would feel the same way too. Mocha just sadly smiled at that. She felt extremely guilty for what had happened to the blonde the day before. It was her fault that he was in the infirmary with all of those injuries. The nurse said that it would be lucky if Naruto could recover a full 100% in 6 months. Good morning, shouted another voice, causing both of the teens to jump and turn around. Mocha narrowed her eyes at the culprit. Kya, Kurumu-chan, she cried angrily, what do you want now? Still angry at the succubus, said girl, just smiled at Sukune. Sukune-kun, I baked some cookies, won't you eat them with me? Getting a confused look from both of them. Huh, Sukune asked intelligently, why me? The succubus just blushed and placed a hand on one side of her face. Oh, remember when I said I was searching for my life's one and only destined one? I've decided, it's Sukune, getting a shocked face coming from said boy. I remember what my mother once had told me about how she met her destined one. All of her charms or techniques never worked on him when she first met him. So she decided to try and see if she could make him fall in love with her naturally. That's how she knew he was her destined one, and all of my advances towards you Sukune, they didn't work. No matter how much I tried, you just wouldn't be mine. So I've finally found my destined one, oh Sukune, now I've totally fallen for you. She said with hearts in her eyes, until they met Mocha's who was giving her a death glare which she gladly returned. Kurumu didn't see what was so bad. Her mom found her destined one this way, she needed to find her destined one as well. She had been searching for so long. She never really knew how she was going to go about and do it, but then this happened. The same situation that happened with her mother as well. She just had to make Sukune hers. Sukune just blanched. Hey girls. He stuttered at the girls who still had lightning going between the both of them. How about we go visit Naruto? The girls stopped glaring at each other when they heard the blonde's name and looked at Sukune. There's a good chance that he might be awake now. I think that he could us the company, he said, both girls getting sad looks on their faces, but both nodded regardless. At the infirmary. What do you mean he's not here? Shouted all three teens at a very confused nurse who just smiled sheepishly. Well, I don't know, she said, with his injuries, he shouldn't have been able to get out of bed for at least 3 weeks. So I left for a couple of hours to get lunch, and when I got back, he was no longer here. She finished smiling while sticking her tongue out of her mouth. Getting an eye tick from all three teens, they left the infirmary grumbling about how women like her gave nurses a bimbo name. Walking down the hall, Sukune asked, where could he have gone off to then? He looked like he was really hurt. Getting a wince from both of the girls next to him. They were about so split up to look for him when they heard a strange conversation passing a nearby door. And did you know that a ramen museum opened in Yokohama in 1994? That's why ramen is so great, shouted a familiar voice to the three. Really now? Said a seductive feminine voice, you are just too cute. How is it you don't have a girlfriend already? Causing two teens outside the door to become wide-eyed while the male just raised an eyebrow. The teens pushed open a door to see a bandaged Naruto being fed ramen from a bowl from a rather attractive green-haired female. Don't worry, she said seductively, let Eiko-chan take care of you, especially with you injuries. Causing the blonde to grin innocently. As long as the ramen keeps coming, you can help me all day, he grinned. This cooking class is the best thing that has ever been created, Dabbeo, he said before widening his eyes, slapping his hands to his face, incidentally hitting himself with his casts that were on both arms. The girl just grinned at the boy and with a predatory smirk as she glomped the poor boy. Kawaii. You have a verbal tick that is so cute. She stopped when she felt a small amount of killing intent from behind her. Looking back, she saw a couple of demons with glowing eyes and blue and pink hair staring at her. Naruto got out of the girl's grasp and looked up at the two glaring girls. Oh hey guys, he said with a grin. Weirdest thing happened to me today when I woke up, causing the girls to snap out of their demonic modes. When I woke up, I was in the infirmary with all of these bandages and casts on. What happened? He asked, getting a guilty look from both of the girls. Did I fall off of a large cliff again? Again. They all thought. Anyways, I got way hungry, then I remembered that if we pay, the cooking class or club will make whatever food I want, so I came here. And Eiko-chan here, where'd she go? He asked, looking all around for the girl. The others hadn't even noticed that she was gone either and were puzzled about where the green-haired girl had gone. That's weird, said the blonde while on the inside thinking, that's not good. I'm getting rusty if I couldn't sense her leave from 3 feet away from me. Breaking out of his thought process, he looked at his friends again. So guys, what's up? Kurumu looked at Naruto and her eyes started to tear up before she launched herself at him. Naruto-kun, I'm so sorry, wah. She started crying into the confused blonde's chest. Naruto, not really knowing what was happening, just patted her back confused until the girl calmed herself down. She then proceeded to tell the blonde all that had happened up until the point where she brought him to the infirmary. And I can you understand if you never wanted to see me again, Naruto-kun, but I want you to know I am so sorry, she said, still with tears in her eyes. Naruto was silent for a while, thinking about what she had said. Naruto, said a shy pink-haired girl. I too am sorry about what had happened. If it wasn't for my inner demon, then this wouldn't have happened either. Please forgive me. she shouted, bowing to the blonde in apology. The blonde remained quiet before turning around and taking out a scroll. The three teens looked over Naruto's shoulder to see what he was doing. He unrolled it, taking up the space of 3 extra seat spaces before making a hand sign. Kai, he said before 3 more bowls of hot steaming ramen were produced with a pair of chopsticks. He then started eating his own ramen and looked back when he noticed that no one had really moved. What? He asked blankly with a noodle hanging from his mouth. The 3 teens looked at the blonde in confusion. Naruto? Asked Sukune. What are you doing? The blonde raised an eyebrow. What does it look like I'm doing? He asked as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. I'm giving you guys some of my ramen. The teens just stared at Naruto like he was crazy. Naruto sighed. Fine. Then as your guys' punishment for something that happened that I have no idea what happened, you have to eat ramen with me, he said with an angry scowl. The 3 teens blinked. That's it? Kurumu asked. Do you not want me to forgive you? The blonde asked with a raised eyebrow. Well, no I do, but what I did was horrible to you. How can you forgive me just like that? She cried out. Naruto just smiled. Easy, just like this. And then he put a large mouthful of ramen in her mouth with his chopstick, causing the girl jump back in surprise, almost choking on the ramen. Oi! That's great, a ramen right there, don't waste it. He shouted at the girl. Now get over here and eat this gift from Kami before it gets cold. He said, causing the other teens just to smile warmly at him as they sat down. They ended up talking for a while about mundane things. A couple times they asked the blonde how he was able to do some of the things that he did, or if he really was a human, but the boy only winked, said he was a human, the most sexy badass human on the face of the planet, and replied, trade secret, whenever they asked about his abilities. After a while they started to leave the cooking classroom to their other classes. So how come I don't remember anything that happened though when Sukune can? Naruto questioned the succubus, who was now happily eating his bowl of ramen. That's cause I used a more advanced version of my charm on you. I didn't want you to think any less of me and remember what I was trying to have you do. She said, still nervously, afraid that the blonde was going to be angry with her. You're really the first friend that I have ever had, and I really didn't want to ruin our friendship. Naruto just smiled at that. Don't worry Kurumu, we'll always be friends no matter what, okay? He said happily to her, getting the girl to give him a beautiful smile of her own. As for Sukune, the reason why he wasn't affected by my charms is because he is my destined one. She chirped with a smile. In the back they hear a pink-haired girl shout out. No he isn't. Ignoring the girl, Kurumu started to explain to Naruto about succubi and their destined ones. So, Sukune is your destined one you call it? Naruto asked a smiling Kurumu who was in the process of shoving Sukune in her bountiful bosom. Yep. She chirped, I've completely fallen for him, just like he's falling for me right now. That might be due to the lack of oxygen, thought Naruto. Get your hands off my Sukune-kun, shouted Mocha as she shoved her off of him before saying, Kapu-chu, and started to suck his blood. Naruto just looked at the scene fondly, thinking of the friends of his past. Then a feeling came up that he was able to ignore since coming to the academy, loneliness. They really didn't need him there intruding on their time. But he would be there regardless, in case they ever needed his help. It wasn't like he had anything really better to do. Naruto just sighed. I'll see you later guys, Naruto said, gaining the attention of the other teens. I'll come by after classes or something, he said in a forced voice before heading off in a random direction. The teens just looked at each other in confusion. Is Naruto-kun okay? They all thought at the same time. Naruto-kun. Why can't I get my mind off of him? Kurumu thought, going her own way to her classes. I can't have these feelings for him. Mama found her destined one this way. Sukune has to be mine, she continued, confused. Then why do I feel like there still is something that I am missing? Naruto-kun, thought a pink-haired vampire. You looked so sad. I promise I will make all this up to you, she finished with resolve in her eyes. All 3 friends separated, worried and thinking about the blonde enigma that had entered into their lives. Naruto looked down at his bicep, breathing heavily. On his arm was a tattoo of a symbol that looked like to be a fire on his arm. Finally, he thought, that was a bitch to get down, but I wish I had thought of that one earlier. Man, Toa really didn't understand what a special funjutsu he really had. He had been out over the pond for a good 3 hours now, trying to get the basics over his new technique he had seen before. It's no Rasengan, but it will definitely help me in the future, he finished as he spammed out a few clones to gather his things. He then started to stretch his now sore muscles. Crap. I gotta get to school. he said as he sealed up his things and started running back to the academy. The academy? Sorry I'm late, yelled Naruto as he entered into his classroom expecting everyone to have already been seated and listening to Shizuka-sensei. The blonde looked around and saw that nobody was there. Where is everybody? He asked himself. Oh. Why are you still here, Uzumaki-san? Asked a feminine voice behind him. Turning around he saw that as was his cat-like teacher speaking to him. Naruto cocked his head in confusion. What are you talking about, Shizuka-sensei? He asked. Aren't we supposed to be in class? Shizuka just sighed at the clueless blonde. Uzumaki-san, how many times have I told you not to be late to class? She asked, getting a sheepish laugh from the boy in front of her. Today we are looking at different clubs to join so that we might be able to better integrate into the human world. She continued, everybody is already off looking for a club to join. You better hurry too if you want to join one. She finished with a smile. The blonde just scratched his head. Okay. The blonde said, getting a pensive look on his face. Which club would you recommend, Shizuka-sensei? I really don't know what's good out there, so what's your opinion? Getting a surprised look from his teacher before she gained a huge grin on her face. Oh. The newspaper club is always a very exciting club to be a part of, Uzumaki-san. She cried out enthusiastically. I'm sure that you would do wonderful in it. She finished, her tail swaying behind her excitingly. The newspaper club, huh? Thought the blonde. I guess I could always use a little more stealth training. Ooh. I wonder what kind of dirt I can get on the headmaster. An evil grin slowly appeared on his face, thinking of the possibilities to get him good. Shizuka just waited patiently for the blonde's response. I suppose that would be a great club to join. Count me in, Shizuka-sensei. Naruto cried out, thumping himself on the chest. Shizuka smiled widely. Great, she chirped. I'll show you where to meet when a few more members come and join as well. Naruto nodded. Alright, Shizuka-sensei. I'm gonna go out and see these other clubs though. Kinda curious to see what's out there. Shizuka just nodded. Alright, Uzumaki-san. Just make sure to come on back in a little bit then, okay? The blonde nodded before taking off into the hallway, leaving a feline teacher grinning widely as if she had just eaten a canary. Whoa, Naruto mumbled to himself as he saw the busy hallway packed with students going from club to club looking for something that interested them. There's a ton of people here. Going down the hallway looking left and right, he saw tons of different clubs ranging from astronomy to zoology. They had everything there. Naruto took his time looking at the many stands there, seeing what everyone had to offer. They even had a karate club there that had interested Naruto for a moment before seeing their technique. Not gonna lie, he thought it was pretty lame. Beside, hand to hand, he already had his style that he had adapted to his own unique sense of combat. He smiled as he continued down the hallway looking at the diversity of the clubs until he was stopped suddenly by a very beautiful girl. Well, hello there, handsome, said the girl. Naruto couldn't help but become a little red at the appearance of this girl. She had greenish-blue hair with cyan-colored eyes. Also, it looked as though she had yellow shells that were placed on both sides of her head. She was wearing a bikini that was holding her well-developed assets, jiggling every single time she moved. Around her waist she was wearing Naruto thought was a piece of straight purple fabric that she had just tied around her waist. She chuckled quietly, seeing the boy in front of her blush. Are you looking for a club to join? Cause the swimming club is always an open invitation for newcomers to join, she said, smiling before giving the blonde a very noticeable look over. Especially for someone like you, cutie. She smiled widely as the boy seemed to become even more red. It's Alri, he started before he was cut off by the girl. My name is Tamao Inchinos, she said, placing one hand on her hip, the other going through her hair, accentuating her well-developed figure. I'm the president of the swimming club. Nice to meet you. She finished, walking up to him, latching onto one of his arms, pressing her bountiful breast up against him. Naruto visibly shivered as she whispered in his ear, so what's your name, handsome? Na Naruto Uzumaki. He stuttered out. Damn it, he thought. What was going on with him? Just because some hot girl starts rubbing her body all over him, he turns into putty. He's gone up against an army of plant people, and still all it takes is for a girl to throw herself at him and he's gone. She looked up at him and smiled. Well, what do you say, Naruto-kun? Would you like to go for a swim with me? She said, trying to press more of her body up against him. Naruto faltered. He didn't know what to do in this kind of situation. Sure, Jiraiya-sensei would have probably bitch-slapped the hell out of him for acting like a weenie, but he just couldn't help it. Finally getting up the nerve, he started, WWLA actually ta, URK, jerking back as he found another pair of slender arms wrapping around his neck, pulling him out of the grip of the girl. Hey, She growled out as she saw another girl with green hair on Naruto's back, wrap her legs around him while nuzzling her cheek to his over his shoulder. "Hey there, Naruto-kun," she said seductively, "why are you hanging around with this boring girl when you could be with me?" She smiled coyly, glancing back at Tamao, who was now grinding her teeth. "Eiko-chan?" Naruto asked. "For your information, he's about to join the swimming club," she growled, getting a smirk from the other girl. "Well, if that's the case, why don't you join me, Naruto-kun, with the cooking club? I will make sure you can have all the ramen that you can ever dream about," she seductively said in his ear, slightly placing her lips on the tip of it. Naruto's eyes widened at this. All the ramen he could ever dream about. That was a tall order. He wondered if she really could back that up. The swimming captain fumed. "Naruto-kun already agreed to join my club, so hands off, you little huss," she continued before being interrupted. "Growl." Both girls' eyes widened as they looked at the sheepishly grinning blonde in front of them. "Sorry about that, girls." He laughed, a little embarrassed. "It looks like I forgot to get some food. Would you really make me some ramen though, Eiko-chan? You weren't kidding when you said that, right?" he said nervously, hoping that she could make this dream come true. Eiko just flashed Tamao a little victory smirk before turning to the blonde, pressing her large assets against his back, getting the blonde a little flustered. "But of course, Naruto-kun," she said, "I would never lie about something as important as ramen, now would I? Now let's leave this cranky swimming girl and go grab a bite to eat." Naruto looked up at Tamao with an apologetic smile. "Sorry about that, Tamao-chan," he said, getting an annoyed glance from the girl on his back. "I should probably eat first before I do anything. Gotta have my energy, you know." The blonde smiled at the angry girl, causing her to brighten up at him. "Maybe later we can go for that swim of yours, okay?" he said, getting a nod from the girl before walking off with Eiko still wrapped around his body. She glanced back at the swimming captain and mouthed the words, "You lose," causing the captain to once again start grinding her teeth. "Naruto Uzumaki," she said quietly, glaring daggers at the girl who was on the blonde's back being carried away. "You will be mine. You are too good to be passed up." With that, she stormed off, thinking of when she would be able to corner the blonde again without worrying about what apparently was her competition. "You see, Eiko-chan," our favorite blonde said, "that's why you would never want to have miso ramen for breakfast," he cried out. "Never does a body good." Getting the girl next to him thinking, who would ever have ramen for breakfast anyways? Shaking her head, clearing her thoughts, she looked back to the very satisfied blonde. "So Naruto-kun," she said, getting Naruto to look back at her, "how about joining the cooking club? We could spend even more time together if you did," she said before getting a seductive look to her, licking her lips, "or maybe even get some private time together." The blonde once again got a little flustered at what she was implying. Sorry, Eiko-chan," he started, "but I already promised Shizuka-sensei that I would be in the newspaper club." Sorry." The green-haired girl in front of him frowned a little before getting a little glint in her eyes. "Well then, Naruto-kun," she said, smirking as she slowly sauntered over to him, straddling him, causing the boy once again to become red. "How about we do an explicit interview? One where we can really get to know one another," she continued as she started to grind her hips against the blonde's, causing him to give a small moan. "I see someone though already wants to come out and play," as she continued to gyrate her hips. Damn it, he thought, "at this rate I'm gonna lose control." Just as he was pushing the girl off of him, she started to caress his cheeks with her hands, causing the ninja to cease struggling and lean into her ministrations. A low rumble reached both of their ears as the blonde started to purr. Eiko and Naruto went wide-eyed with shock. "Kawaii!" shouted the girl in his lap before Naruto found himself enveloped in the lovely bosom of the green-haired beauty as she started to hug him to death. "That is just so cute. Oh, Naruto-kun, we are going to have such a wonderful time together." "Damn it!" the blonde shouted in his head, "that isn't what you thought it was." That was a growl. He tried to say through the mounds of flesh that were in his face. "I'm a frickin' boss ninja. And frickin' bad-ass ninjas don't purr, we growl," he continued as he trying to regain himself and get out of the predicament that he was currently in, not realizing his own mistake. "Ninja?" Eiko's eyes widened at this little bit of information that she had just received. Noticing the struggling blonde beneath her, she smirked once again. "He's just what I need to make everything happen. Naruto Uzumaki, I'm claiming you now." Naruto's eyes widened with shock as she grabbed his face and brought her lips to his. Eiko started to kiss the blonde passionately while the blonde just stood there gobsmacked at what was going on in front of him. HMPPHH, the blonde tried to back up but found that the girl's tongue had darted out into his mouth, exploring everything it could reach. Eiko started to move her hips once again, feeling Naruto's hard problem rubbing against her womanhood, eliciting her own moan into Naruto's mouth. She could feel Naruto start to relax and ease into what she was doing. That's it, she thought as she planned her next seduction move, just go with it. Just then the door to the classroom was slammed open. Naruto-kun, cried two girls as Eiko looked back with hate in her eyes. Damn it. I was so close. Get off of him. A pink-haired girl ran over to shove the girl, but Eiko just flipped backwards off of Naruto, leaving him in his still dazed state. Kurumu looked Naruto over, noticing his out-of-it look, eyes widening around a certain area that was straining under the fabric of his pants before glaring at the green-haired girl. What did you do to him? Mocha yelled at Eiko, who just stood up from her crouch and placed a hand on her hip. I was making out with him before you two interrupted. Why, is that against school policy or something? She asked, getting both girls to glare daggers at her while the boy behind them just shrugged nonchalantly. The way he saw it, Naruto was getting some action from a hot girl. There was nothing wrong with that. Stay away from Naruto-kun, you slut, Kurumu growled at Eiko. She just shrugged. Why should I? Looking at him, it seems like he enjoyed it. She grinned. Besides, why should you two care what I do with Naruto? Aren't you both into Sukune there behind you? Getting both girls and brown-haired boy to blink at what she just said. Then they both looked downward at the ground awkwardly. Why did I act like that all of a sudden? Mocha thought. It shouldn't matter who Naruto-kun is in a relationship with, right? Thinking it through quickly, she got a determined look on her face. But he still is my precious friend, and friends don't let friends date terrible people, she justified in her mind. Sukune is my destined one, so why am I feeling this way? Thought a busty succubus. Naruto-kun is a good-looking guy, he's bound to have some girls after him. Glancing up at the girl who was now grinning like she had won the argument, but not to this girl. So what if we like Sukune? Kurumu said. Naruto-kun is still our friend and we won't let some common whore come in and take over his life. Yay! Cried Mocha in agreement. Eiko just sighed in annoyance. You can try if you want to. She started before she smiled evilly, but in the end, Naruto-kun will be mine no matter what any of you say. She cried out, throwing down a smoke bomb obscuring everyone's vision. When everything cleared, there wasn't a trace of her left. Coughing out of his stupor, Naruto looked around. What happened? He asked curiously as the girls grabbed both of his arms and threw him outside of the room and began to chew him out about the type of girls he was seeing. Sukune just had a sweat drop forming on his head at the sight of the blonde being berated. Don't see why they're upset. I say good for Naruto personally, but there was no way in hell he was going to be saying that aloud as he saw the girls continue scolding him for picking up such a whore. But Mocha-chan, Kurumu-chan, she gave me ramen, he argued back at the girls. They both smacked him on the head. Itai, what was that for? Damn it, Naruto-kun, shouted Kurumu, didn't your mother ever teach you not to take candy from strangers? Getting a confused look from the blonde, Mocha chipped in. The same rule applies here. Never take ramen from a stranger, Naruto-kun, she said sternly at the blonde, getting him to pout. But it's ramen, he said quietly before getting smacked again. Damn it, stop hitting me. Whack, whack. Ow. Naruto, Mocha, and Sukune were now all walking down the hall with the clubs still advertising their qualities. Kurumu ran off a little earlier because of some cookies that she had made earlier were about to burn in the oven. You girls are so mean to me, pouted Naruto. Sukune didn't say anything. Why didn't you girls slap him around? He asked Mocha, who gave Sukune a dark glare causing said boy to shiver. Naruto, you dumbass. He cried out fearfully, don't go out with whores. He finished looking at Mocha for approval, who was smiling. He looked at Naruto apologetically, getting a glare from the blonde. That's right, Naruto-kun, chirped Mocha, you can't just choose any bimbo to date. You need to be extremely picky. Naruto just shrugged at this. Mocha felt a little frustrated at the situation still though. Hopefully that would wake the blonde up to not rush into something. For some reason, she just didn't really see how any girl could deserve Naruto. The next thing she knew, she saw Sukune get swarmed by a bunch of girls in bikinis. Oh my, one of them said, you definitely need to join the swimming club. We'll have so much fun together, said another while taking off his shirt. Please take care of us, cried another, ripping off his pants. Mocha just stood by flabbergasted about what was going on before she saw them start to drag him off towards the pool. Hey, she cried out, running after them. She didn't even notice that a certain blonde ninja was currently missing from the group. Hello there, Naruto-kun, said a seductive voice. Naruto found himself staring into the same pair of cyan eyes he had met earlier that day. Moments ago he had been dragged into another room and now he was staring right in the eyes of the beautiful swim captain. Hi Tamao-chan, he said, causing the girl to smile. Oh Naruto-kun, you remembered my name, she cried out as she shoved his head into her ample bosom. Now, how about we go for that swim you promised me earlier, won't you? She asked as she started to undress said boy who was once again reduced to a stuttering mess. Hey, I can take off my own clothes, he said indignantly, but the girl continued to keep unbuttoning his shirt. Oh, Naruto-kun. Don't worry. Let Tamao-chan take care of you. She ended, quieting her voice as she gazed upon the body of Naruto Uzumaki. He was trim and fit. Muscles could be seen adorning his body and giving him what one could say to be a Greek god-like appearance. It looked like he had a red fire tattoo on his arm as well. But the thing that quieted Tamao down were the scars that were littered across his body. Cuts and stab wounds from his past were now represented on his body now. One in particular that got the girl's attention was the one above his heart. A large fist-sized scar lay adorned there. Naruto, nervous of Tamao's reaction, stood there nervously before she took her hands and started to run her fingers along the different scars that were there. Naruto's eyes snapped open in shock. Oh wow, Tamao said quietly, look at these beautiful markings. You truly are an interesting man, Naruto-kun. She finished as she began to lead him to a hot tub. Screw devouring him, she thought. I am never going to let this one go ever. Naruto, you're mine. Making her decision, she got in the water first before turning around and inviting the blonde to join her. So, you really don't mind these scars? He asked hesitantly. Tamao just smiled. Every man should have some scars here or there, Naruto-kun. It just means that you'll be able to take care of me that much better. She giggled as he blushed. She grabbed his arm and led him to the water. Sitting down next to each other side by side, Tamao leaned her head on Naruto's shoulder while caressing his arm that she was hanging on to. Naruto-kun? She started getting Naruto to look at her. I've been watching you for some time now, she said quietly, getting the blonde's internal ninja senses to be on alert. If she was watching him, how much could she know? I've had my eye on you since the first day I saw you a week ago. She continued. I dream of you constantly and I can't seem to ever stop thinking about you. Naruto started to heat up at this confession. Tamao started to lay light kisses on his shoulder and up his neck until she reached his ear. Something about you is different. I'm not sure what it is, but it excites me. Your personality, your body, and your smell. Oh, you smell, she said in his, pressing her body to his as she inhaled his scent. I can't help but to want to make you mine, she said, causing the blonde's eyes to widen. She straddled the blonde and looked directly into his eyes. Come on, Naruto, she said, now with a hint of lust in her eyes. Let us become one right now. Show me why I can't seem to get you off my mind, she said before locking her lips to his. For the second time that day, Naruto froze up, not really knowing what to do when a hot girl starts to make out with you. He started to get over his shock and reciprocate the girl's affections when he heard a disturbance nearby. Help us, came a cry from the other side of the fence. I don't want to be turned into an old man, cried another. Naruto broke of his kiss from the girl in front of him only for her to grab his face and start kissing him more forcefully. Getting his bearings back, Naruto broke off a little more forcefully, pushing the girl off of him. Tamao-chan. Hold on, can't you hear them? They need help, he said to the girl. The girl shook her head and looked at him lustfully. No, Naruto-kun. I need your help. Help me and become mine, she said as she made another move for him. Naruto dodged and jumped out of the hot tub. I'm sorry, Tamao-chan, the blonde said to the lustful girl. I can't just leave anybody who needs help. With that he jumped over the fence towards the sound, getting a growl coming from the girl. Landing on the other side of the fence, Naruto found himself looking at an interesting scene. What looked to be mermaids were swimming after all the males that were currently in the pool. To his horror, he saw a couple mermaids grab a teen and bite into both of his arms, only for seconds later he became an old man. Naruto scowled. Hell no, I'm not going to let this happen, the blonde exclaimed as he started running for the water. Cage bushins running on both sides of him, they set off running across the water, grabbing the males out of the water and throwing them out of the pool area. The mermaids stared at the blonde in shock as they saw him running across the water. Naruto, running across, picked up another teen out of the grasp of a mermaid who was ready to bite him. NN Naruto, he said, gaining a look from Naruto, finding that it was Sukune. Naruto frowned. Sukune saw how the blonde was running across the water and was shocked. How is he doing this? he thought. Sukune. He asked, "What the hell are you doing here?" reaching the shore and dumping the boy on the ground. Kurumu ran up to them both, giving Naruto a quick lusty once-over before getting frantic again. Naruto-kun. She cried out frantically. Mocha is still in the water. Water is a vampire's weakness. Getting the blonde's eyes to go wide and snap his head towards the water where the succubus was pointing. "Shit," he said, looking for her as the mermaids in the water began to congregate together. Naruto grabbed Sukune and started to run back across the water to head off the mermaids from reaching the vampire. He chucked Sukune in her general direction, getting a cry from the boy. "Quick, Sukune!" The blonde yelled. "Get her out of the water," as he turned around to face the multitude of mermaids. "You stole our life energy supply, you son of a bitch!" One mermaid cried out, rushing the blonde. She swam at impressive speeds towards him, jumping out of the water with her mouth wide open to take a bite out of him. The blonde merely sidestepped to the side, grabbed the girl by her tail and gave a quick chop to the back of her neck before throwing the girl off to the side out of the pool. This just seemed to get the other girls angry and start to charge him. "Stop!" came a quick command, getting everyone to look at the figure who yelled. Half in the water came up Tamao. Naruto noticed that she in fact too was a mermaid from her tail. "Naruto-kun, you just get more and more interesting by the second. I truly wonder what kind of monster you really are," she said as she noted the blonde's unique way travel in the water. She came to the front of the mermaids. "Naruto-kun, come back to me," she said, getting a cry from the sideline from a certain succubus that sounded a lot like a "hell no." Tamao just continued, "Come back and be with me, Naruto-kun. We can end this all right now if you just come back and become my mate," she said, getting some looks from the girls around her. They looked at her, then at the blonde, then back to her. "Captain," one of the girls said, "this man is the reason why we don't have any males to suck their life energy." She angrily glared at the boy. Tamao just shrugged. "There is always an abundance of males here at the academy, don't worry about it. This is only a minor setback. This man in front of us though, he's completely different from any other specimen I have ever seen before. And I will do anything I have to get him," she said determiningly, getting the others girls to look at her strangely. It was rare to see their captain act this passionate about something. The girls decided to support their captain in her decision and looked back at the blonde. "So Naruto," she continued and stretched out her arms, "come, so we can be together once again," she said with a smile. Naruto glanced behind him and saw that Sukune had gotten Mocha to the edge of the pool already. "I'm sorry, Tamao-chan," the blonde said, "but what you and the other girls here are doing is wrong and I just can't support you in it." Tamao's eyes narrowed at the blonde. "You even went after my friends as well, who are my precious people." He too narrowed his eyes and gave the girls a sharp look. "Those who mess with my precious people will pay," he said, getting into a fighting stance. Tamao just sighed. "I don't think you really understand, Naruto-kun," she said with a frown. "I'm not giving you a choice." She yelled as she swam towards the boy, her hands becoming web-like and scaly. Before she could reach him though, Naruto felt a strong presence appear out of nowhere, distracting him for just a second before he dodged a swipe from the mermaid, who ended up nicking the side of his face, causing him to bleed just a little bit. Both mermaid and ninja were blown back from a large shockwave that went off to the side of the pool. Moments before this happened, as Sukune was trying to get Mocha out of the water, he accidentally grabbed the girl's rosary and yanked it off of her choker, causing the dramatic change occur with the vampire. Soaking wet, the girl glared dangerously at Tamao. "How dare you treat me like this?" she growled out, a fang sticking out of one side of her mouth. Tamao's jaw was dropped as she stared at the angry vampire in shock before shaking her head, getting her mind cleared. "Just get out of the way, water hater," the mermaid shouted. "I've had my eyes set on Naruto-kun from the moment I saw him. You don't even want him. I refuse to give him up to some bloodsucker like you." Mocha glanced over to the blonde who was sitting on top of the water. "You've got some explaining to do, Uzumaki-san," she said in a voice that left to reason she wouldn't just drop the issue. Tamao became enraged. "Don't ignore me, you water hater. I'll get rid of you for good," she yelled, snapping her fingers, having all the other mermaids in the water swiftly make their way over to the vampire. HMPH, coming from a low-class fish that can't think about anything but food. She snorted, "Don't make me laugh." Two mermaids came up on opposite sides of the girl, lunging at her mouths and webbed claws open. Then at the last second, before Mocha could do anything, something came in and hit the girls back into the water. "What?" Mocha's eyes widened. "I just saw a blur, what was that?" she thought as she scanned the water, only for her eyes to widen again when she saw Naruto land in front of her, back facing towards her. Her eyes narrowed at his upper back. Demon? She thought. Naruto glanced back at her with a smile. Sorry Mocha-chan. I know you want to take care of these girls yourself, but I don't want any of them to die today. So how about I take care of this for you? He finished grinning at the girl. Mocha just looked at the blonde with an inquisitive eye before huffing. Fine Uzumaki-san, she sneered. I didn't want to sully my hands on the likes of them anyways. She finished turning around to walk to the wall behind her where she leaned her back against it. This will let me see what exactly he can do as well. He's much faster today than he was a couple days ago. She thought as she narrowed her eyes. Did he hold back fighting me? Angered at the prospect that the blonde had been taking it easy with her. She would never admit it, but she worried for the blonde a little after the harsh beating that she gave him. If that was for naught, there would hell to pay. You can't beat us Naruto-kun, said Tamao regaining the vampire's attention. Mermaids are invincible in the water. You're in our territory, she shouted as she swam for the ninja. Naruto just glanced at her before catching something that was heading for his head. He looked over to his right at a clone who gave him a salute before dispelling itself. You should know Tamao-chan. Naruto started, that no one is invincible. Mocha's eyes narrowed at the clone. Those doppelgangers of his again. How is that possible? She thought. Naruto just held up the item in his hand, which looked like to be a kunai with a tag attached to it. Ripping off the tag, he poured some of his chakra into it before placing it on the surface of the water. A current of electricity could be seen running through the water when the tag was placed on the surface of the pool, getting many screams from the attacking mermaids. Aggggggghhhhh. They all cried out in pain, feeling their muscles freezing up, twitching, and spazzing out. Naruto just looked at them. Shock tag. He said simply before creating 5 more clones and began running across the water, going to each of the girls and giving them a chop to the back of their necks, effectively knocking them out and throwing them to the side of the pool. The only one left was Tamao, who was seething in rage. Still feeling the effects of the shock, she glared at the silver-haired vampire off to the side. I see, she said quietly, if it wasn't for you, Naruto-kun would have been mine. She thought irrationally, then I'm gonna get you aka YASHI. She howled as she swam directly for the vampire. Jumping out of the water like a missile, she barreled towards the girl. Mocha just gave her an evil grin. Know you place. Mocha said just quietly enough for the mermaid to hear before feeling a kick connect with her head, sending her back over the water, skipping like a skipping stone until she hit the edge of the pool, making a small crater. Lying there limply with her jaw now broken, she just stared at the blonde-haired man in front of her. Kun. She tried to say with her now broken jaw. Tears were streaming down the face of the defeated girl as she lay there in front of the man she wanted. Naruto sighed, brushing a hand through his hair before crouching down in front of the girl. Listen Tamao, he started, you honestly to me don't seem like that bad of a person. But what you were doing here was wrong, he said with conviction in his voice. I'm sorry, but you have to stop doing this. I know you're a better person than this. He sighed, listen, one day I'm sure you'll find that guy that you're gonna want to be with for the rest of your life. But only if you change and stop doing things like this. Tamao's eyes widened slightly before they started to fall, losing to her personal battle to stay conscious. The last thing that she heard was, I hope that we can still be friends Tamao-chan. Then she lay there in the concrete crater. Giving out another sigh as the blonde got up from his crouch only to hear a slap. Looking over to the other side of the pool, it looked like Mocha just slapped Sukune, Kurumu holding onto him giving her an incredulous look. Welp, he might as well start heading over there to see what was going on. Walking over as Mocha started to walk away from Sukune, she stopped and looked over to Naruto and started walking towards him. Naruto raised an eyebrow at this but shrugged nonetheless. The thing is that she never stopped walking towards him. The blonde had stopped, but Mocha continued forward into his personal bubble. Mocha HMPHHHH. He got cut off as Mocha's hand once again found its way over his mouth, pushing him against the wall that was to their left, effectively pinning him. What the hell is this girl's problem? He was thinking about escaping before Mocha shot him a glare that said, if you try to move I will kill you. Now being on the side of angry women before, Tsunade, Sakura, Anko, it was safe to say that Naruto didn't want to get his ass kicked again for not doing what a female told him to do, so he just decided to go with the flow of things here in this situation. Mocha gazed down at the blonde who she had pinned against the wall. She saw the scars that had lined his muscular body. Her fingertips traced some of the lines that were across Naruto's abdomen. Naruto shivered at her light touch, getting the vampire to smirk inwardly. Then her eyes gazed at the fist-sized scar above his heart. Now what kind of thing would give you this type of wound, Uzumaki-san? Letting go of his mouth but still effectively pinning him against the wall. The blonde moved his jaw side to side, trying to loosen it just a bit. "OWWW," he said, "you really need to lighten up." A harsh glare at the comment getting the blonde to wince. "Well, you know," he started, "doing things that normal boys do. You know, random adventures, accidents, and little fights. You know, manly stuff," he said nervously, only for Mocha to get up right in Naruto's face, pressing her entire body against his. To both Sukune and Kurumu, it looked like she was just about to kiss the blonde. This getting a little tick from the blue-haired girl. "Oh really?" she asked dangerously, getting the blonde to wince again. "Then please enlighten me how having the word demon etched along your back is manly." Naruto flinched at that. He was hoping that no one would have noticed that one. Both Kurumu and Sukune looked confused. Mocha saw the blonde's wince. "I almost didn't see it, but I assure you, Uzumaki-san, it is still there. Would you like to explain why you have such a thing etched into your body? Also, if you're just a human, then please explain to me how you were able to move across the water, make corporeal copies of yourself, as well as produce a large current of electricity from a piece of paper. Please tell me, is that just manly stuff as well?" she asked, challenging the blonde. Naruto could swear he could feel her breath less than an inch away from his lips. Naruto swallowed nervously. Yep. "'Cause I'm awesome?" he asked hopefully, trying to lighten the mood. "Ow!" he yelled out as Mocha hit him on the head, right where Tamao had scratched him. "Man, that stinged." Mocha was still glaring at the ninja. "Why did you hold back?" she asked Naruto, getting a look of confusion from him. "You were moving much faster and were more precise with your attacks than a week ago. So I'll ask again, why did you hold back when you were fighting against me?" she snarled at Naruto. Naruto winced slightly. "I honestly don't remember fighting you ever, Mocha-ch. Mocha's hand shot out and covered his mouth again, shutting the blonde up. "I don't like surprises, Uzumaki-san," she stated firmly. "One way or another I will find out who and what you are. Know your place, Uzumaki-san," she said a little forcefully. She knew she wasn't going to get any straight answers out of the blonde today. It was frustrating, for how easygoing the boy was. It was surprisingly difficult to get him to talk anything about himself. She had observed outer Mocha, Kurumu, and Sukune ask him questions, only to get cryptic answers from the boy. He would then steer the conversation somewhere else where the matter was then forgotten. Smelling something delicious, she looked back at the blonde and saw a small trickle of blood coming from a cut on his temple. Moving her face forward, Naruto started to fidget around a little before the vampire strengthened her grip on him to hold him in place. "What the hell is she doing?" thought a freaked-out Naruto. Mocha opened her lips and gave the small line of blood a tentative lick. Her eyes widened. "What the hell?" she shouted out loud as she backed her head away from the blonde, rapidly getting a confused look from the boy. Mocha was silent for just a moment, thinking about the blood she had just tasted. It seemed bitter and a little foul, but the more time went on, the better the blood tasted in its aftertaste. She gave the boy's face another small lick, unconsciously rubbing herself up against Naruto. He shivered from the close contact. Mocha, now getting more used to the taste, started to rapidly lap up the rest of the blood, moaning slightly at its flavor. When it was all gone, she started to lick at the cut that was on Naruto's face, reaching up and rubbing more of her body against the blonde, causing his hormones to start to go out of control. Now the girl was moaning audibly in delight at the tasty treat. Kurumu just stared at the vampire in shock at how she was behaving. Sukune had gotten a nosebleed at the erotic scene that was happening in front of them, slightly jealous of the attention that Naruto was getting from inner Mocha. Realizing her actions, the silver-haired vampire stopped suddenly and released the blonde from her grasp. Seeing at how she had affected the boy, she smirked at herself slightly. Naruto slid to the ground and was blushing madly at what had just happened. Mocha saw that her body had really affected Naruto, more areas than others. "I trust we have an understanding, Uzumaki-san. The next time we talk, I will have answers from you," she said with a serious expression, getting the blonde to nod dumbly at her. "Good," she said as she started to walk off, leaving the three teens in the pool area alone. Regaining his bearings, Naruto looked around and saw the injured mermaid that Mocha had dealt with. Getting up, he scooped her into his arms. "Naruto-kun, what are you doing?" asked a still nervous Kurumu, getting a look from the blonde. "She's the only one who really got injured and really should get some medical treatment, so I am going to take her to the infirmary," he said back to the girl. Sukune's eyes widened. But she just tried to kill you, he shouted to his friend, only to get a small smile from the blonde. If I remember correctly, Kurumu-chan tried to do the same to you, didn't she? The blonde asked, getting an embarrassed look from the succubus and just a thought-processing stare from his friend. Tamao-chan really isn't a bad person, she's just made some bad decisions, that's all. If we give her the chance, I'm sure that can do great things in her life. Naruto turned around and started walking out of the park. Both Kurumu and Sukune then saw, lightly on his back, the shiny skin that had the words, demon, etched in his skin. Naruto-kun. They both thought. What happened to you? All three never noticed a slightly blushing mermaid had regained consciousness, silently listening to what the blonde had said. When everyone had left the pool area, a figure came out of a shadow in the corner of the area. Interesting, said a feminine voice. She was a beautiful young woman with long, light green hair, large breasts, a tight leather leotard trimmed in feathers, purple nylons with bat patterns, black boots, and bat-like wings on her back and on top of her head. That was entertaining, she said to herself as she recounted the little scuffle that had occurred. This place might not be so boring after all. Smiling at herself, I suppose I could have some fun before I found my other self. Laughing to herself as she disappeared into the shadows once again. Naruto and his three other friends were walking down the hallway talking with one another. Mocha had just shown up earlier that day. It had taken a day and a half for the girl to resurface from her room. Being in the water really had wiped her out, was what she told them. Seeing she was okay, now both Kurumu and Sukune went back to their favorite thing to do, it seemed like, for the past day, pester him about how he was able to perform superhuman acts of God. Naruto for the most part just brushed them off, steering the conversation away, like saying how Kurumu and Sukune should go on a date. Sukune blanched at this, blushing and sputtering. Kurumu just smiled lightly. Naruto raised an eyebrow to this, thinking that the girl would have been all over his friend. He noticed that Mocha was being unusually quiet though. Looking over, he found the girl staring at him with a small tinge of red adorning her cheeks. Seeing the blonde catch her staring, she flushed even further and chomped on Suren's neck. Kapu-chu. She dug into the boy, getting a loud yell from him and an angry succubus trying to pull her off of him. Naruto laughed lightly at their antics. He loved his new friends, but he just didn't see why they needed to know about his past quite yet. He would tell them eventually, just not right now. Remembering something, the blonde spoke up. Hey, getting their attention, have you guys found a club to be in yet? He asked the three, who all looked at each other. No, not yet. Sukune started. With everything that has been going on, we haven't really had time to sign up for one. Naruto just grinned. Why not join the newspaper club? He asked, getting looks of confusion from the three. I did. It sounds like it will be a good time. Besides, having you guys there will be a blast. The three just looked at each other before agreeing. That sounds like a lot of fun, Naruto-kun, chirped Mocha, getting nods from the other two. Naruto smiled. All right, he cried. Let's go see Shizuka-sensei and let her know. All four made their way to the classroom. Opening, they found their sensei in mid-bit of a rather large fish in front of her. Looking up at the sound of the door opening, she found her students in front of her. Oh, what can I do for you for today? She asked with a smile on her face. Naruto grinned. Well, Shizuka-sensei, I found more people for the newspaper club, he said, getting a wide-eyed look from his teacher. She then smiled. That's great, Uzumaki-san. She cried out, oh, you guys are just going to love the newspaper club. It's so fun. She then went on rambling about how the newspaper club was so awesome when the door opened again. They looked back and 3 of the 5 of them tensed up at what they saw. Tamao had decided to walk through the door, getting nasty glares from both the succubus and the vampire. Sukune stood nervously off to the side as she walked in. Naruto smiled softly at the girl walking towards him and his sensei. She flashed the blonde a beautiful smile before addressing the teacher with a small polite bow. Shizuka-sensei, she started, I too would like to be a part of the newspaper club. Getting the cat-like sensei to smile at her and nod. What? Cried out 3 teens as Tamao went over to Naruto and bowed, also getting a confused look from everyone in the room. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun. She said sadly, you were right. I have been doing things that haven't been the best, but I want to make it up and show you that I can be a better person. She said with conviction in her voice. Please give me that chance and I won't let you down. Naruto smiled at the girl. Tamao-chan, you never need to bow to me, he said, smiling. I'm just happy that you want to be a better person. He stuck out his hand. Welcome to the group. he said happily before the girl in front of him smiled and gave him a flying glomp. "Oh Naruto-kun darling," she said suddenly, sticking his face between her breasts, cutting off the blonde's oxygen supply, causing him to flap his arms like a bird. "I'm so happy that we can still work together and be friends. Let me show you how friendly I can be right now," she said seductively to the blonde, getting a nervous laugh from him and a slight nosebleed from Sukune at what she was insinuating. Tamao was then ripped off of the blonde by an angry succubus and vampire. "We're not gonna let you eat Naruto-kun," cried out Mocha, getting a nod from both the succubus and Sukune. "Eat him?" fakely gasped overly surprised Tamao at the accusation that she wanted to feast on Naruto. "I would never want to eat him. I never did," she finished, getting disbelieving looks from the three. "Well, why were you trying to eat him the other day then?" Sukune asked, fearful for his friend. Tamao just smiled. "Oh that?" she asked innocently. "I was trying to make Naruto-kun here my mate," she said cheerfully as she started to rub herself up against the blonde, getting him to stutter. A second later she was ripped away from the blonde by an angry-looking succubus and vampire. "Like hell am I going to let some filthy whore like you have Naruto-kun?" she yelled, getting a "yeah" from her pink-haired friend. "How dare you?" Tamao shouted back. "You girls have Sukune, go bother him and leave me with my mate." "He's not your mate," Mocha shouted out, getting the three of the girls into a shouting match at whose mate is whose and which whore couldn't be the mate. Honestly, it was just all too confusing for both of the boys to follow. Shizuka giggled. My, she said, "we sure have a lively group this year, don't we?" She smiled, getting the boys to let out a sigh watching the girls yell it out. "Dude," Naruto started, "I kinda miss it when they just fought over you." Sukune gave a small exasperated laugh. "Welcome to the club, Naruto," Sukune said. "We're best friends, right? If I have to deal with this, you're coming kicking and screaming with me." He finished, grinning at his blonde friend who had a tick mark above his eyebrow. The two just stood there watching the girls continue their fight for a few minutes. "Want some ramen?" the blonde asked as he pulled out the noodles from his scroll as he sat back and continued watching the fighting girls. Sukune shrugged and grabbed a bowl for himself, then getting himself comfortable before watching the sight before him. "Sukune-kun," Kurumu exclaimed excitingly at the end of their class period. "Today we start going to our club together, right? I'm just so happy I can be in the same club as you, Sukune-kun," she cried out cheerfully as she smashed the boy's face into her large bosom, effectively suffocating the poor boy. Naruto glanced over at the couple only to shiver when he felt a pissed-off Mocha radiating hate at the succubus. "Well then everyone," Shizuka said, interrupting any further arguments that could occur. "Thanks for joining my club, so let's begin the club activities for the Yukai Academic Newspaper Club," she said cheerfully. Naruto, Sukune, Mocha, and Kurumu just stared around them at the empty classroom. "Are we the only members of this club?" Naruto asked, scratching his head while the others had a similar train of thought. "Naruto-kun," came a voice from outside as the door flew wide open. "Huh? HMPH," was the only thing that Naruto could get out before he was tackled out of his desk onto the ground. Then he was effectively squeezed while his face lay between two soft mounds that were rubbing enthusiastically against him. "I've missed you so much, Naruto-kun," Tamao cried out with a pout. "Why can't we be in the same class together?" Naruto was now flapping his arms like a bird, trying to get some form of oxygen into his lungs. "Hey, you," Tamao blinked before she felt two hands placed on her shoulders, yanking the girl off of the now gasping boy. Naruto inhaled as much air as he could before hearing a slight chuckle. He looked up and glared at his friend Sukune, who found the situation hilarious, as he was not the only one suffering from oxygen deprivation. "Oh, you better watch your back now, Sukune," Naruto thought evilly as he planned all sorts of pranks that could torture his friend. "What do you think you're doing?" Mocha cried out at the mermaid, who was filing her nails uninterestingly. "What does it look like I'm doing?" she said as she blew on her nails. "I'm spending time with my future mate," she said, causing both Mocha and Kurumu eyes to pop open as they turned slightly red. Mate?" Kurumu squeaked out before glaring at the girl. "Naruto would never become the mate of a parasitic fish like you," she said angrily as a tick mark formed on the head of the mermaid. "Just what the hell do you mean by that?" she growled out. "Why don't you just go over and fight over Sukune? I don't see why you both are like this if Naruto isn't the guy you're interested in," she said, annoyed before a slight smirk formed on her face. "Or, maybe, you both really like Naruto instead." She grinned as both girls turned red and looked down awkwardly. That's not it at all," Mocha cried out, getting a vicious nod of agreement from the busty succubus to her side. Why? Yay. We're just looking after Naruto-kun, she said, defending herself. He's our friend too, and we can just have some whore going and destroying the good person that he is. She justified her action. The girls then continued to argue as Shizuka desperately tried and failed to control the yelling women. Unfortunately for the girls, no one noticed that Naruto was no longer in the room. A nearby room. Humph! Naruto grunted out as he was thrown in a chair with his hands tied behind his back. What's going on? He asked, confused before looking up into a pair of dull green eyes. Eiko-chan? He asked, genuinely confused before she straddled him. So, she said, slightly depressed, you joined another club, she said as she looked down, slightly dejected. Naruto looked at the girl for a moment. Anyo, he said slightly awkwardly, the home economics is awesome and stuff, Eiko-chan, but my friends are all in the newspaper club as well, he said as he looked into the girl's sad eyes. I couldn't just leave them there. But you left me, Eiko pouted to Naruto. Honestly, what did those girls have that she didn't? She knew she was damn sexy. So why hadn't Naruto come to her? Hell, she even made him a shitload of ramen, a thing that he claimed was a gift from the gods. What was it going to take to get this guy? Then why don't you come and join us? Naruto said, grinning, causing the girl to snap her eyes back to the blonde. You're a good friend of mine too, Eiko-chan. I'm sure that the others would welcome you with open arms as well. Eiko had to hold back a snort as she saw what had happened when other girls tried to put the moves on him. Those two vultures would come in and kick anyone else away from the boy, even though they pretend to say that they aren't interested in the boy. She stared into his blue eyes for a moment. Damn those innocent eyes of his, it made her want to take control of him. She smiled sultrily. I'll come, Naruto-kun. She purred as she brought her face uncomfortably close to his, causing the boy to blush slightly. If you do me a favor. Naruto blinked before smiling. Sure, Eiko-chan. He said brightly, all you needed to do was ask. I'll do anything for you. Eiko's grin only widened and she brought her lips less than an inch away from Naruto's lips. Make me yours. She whispered before hungrily attacking the surprised blonde's lips. Naruto gasped slightly and Eiko found that as an opportunity to shove her tongue inside his mouth, eliciting a slight moan from the blonde. After a few seconds of surprise, Naruto's wide eyes began to close as he melted into the kiss. Eiko grinned inwardly as she felt the blonde's resistance fade away. She continued to grind the blonde, feeling him hardening underneath her. Hydoroburasuto, Hydroblast Hydoroburasuto. They both heard as a blast of water struck the green-haired girl, forcing her away from Naruto, who was still in a bit of a daze. Eiko flipped over and unsheathed her nodaichi, glaring at the culprit responsible for interrupting her playtime. What the hell do you think that you're doing to my mate? Growled out an angry Tamao, both Kurumu and Mocha standing right behind her with disapproving looks etched on their faces. Another boy peeked into the room with a slightly confused look of what was going on. He had a handsome face with long shining black hair that was kept out of his face by a red headband. His eyes were violet red as they gazed on at the scene. A wolf pendant could also be seen dangling down from his neck. TCH, Eiko ticked as she sheathed her weapon and stood up. I'm just giving Naruto-kun my welcoming gift. That's all, she smirked. Welcoming gift? Tamao questioned, still glaring at the girl. Yeah, welcoming gift. Eiko grinned. You see, I've just been introduced as the newest member of the club. A tick mark formed on the head of the three girls in front of her. The black-haired teen only quirked an eyebrow. Let me introduce myself, she said as she took an elegant bow. My name is Eiko Teruya. Please take good care of me. She looked up and smirked at Tamao. Tamao was seething as she registered what this hussy had just said. New member, she said. What the hell does a slut like you know about journalism? She huffed, only to cause Eiko to grin. Why, photography of course, she said as it were the most obvious thing in the world. She pulled out what looked to be an expensive camera from in between her cleavage. Every paper needs to have visual evidence for their articles, correct, Gaine-chan? She said to the teen who finally walked all the way into the room. Jin-senpai. Mocha said, you know this girl? She asked. Gaine Morioka sighed as he ran a hand through his slick hair. Yay, she's in the same class as me. But I'm surprised, Eiko-san. He said as he looked at the girl. You don't really interact with anyone too often, so why now? Eiko smirked. It looks as though something caught my attention. She gazed lustfully at Naruto, who was just starting to come back from his hormone high. All the other girls fumed at her gaze. Besides, she said as she disappeared, only to reappear right next to Gaine. Fast, he thought as he narrowed his eyes. What kind of monster was she again? He was snapped out of his thoughts when he saw photos being dangled in front of him. I'm sure we can work out some sort of agreement, right Gaine-chan? She whispered into his ear. Jin's eyes widened as he saw photos of girls undressing from the girls' locker room. Well, he said coolly, these are quite the impressive photos you have here, Eiko-san. He said as he took them out of her hand and placed them within his suit jacket. I think that you might just have a place here in the club after all. What? Cried out the rest of the women. Jin-senpai, Kurumu shouted, her pictures can't be that great. Let me see, she shouted only for a few pictures to be dangled in front of her. Hot! She cried out as she grabbed the pictures and was practically drooling over them. Tamao and Mocha just looked at each other confused before they gazed over her shoulder. Tamao automatically started to drool while Mocha turned a bright red. I wasn't sure about the one that you liked, so I added both Naruto and Sukune into the mix. Eiko said with a wink. The photos contained various pictures of both Naruto and Sukune either bathing or in nothing but a towel. Don't worry, I have plenty for the two of you, Eiko said as she shoved the pictures into Mocha's trembling hands. Also, these are only of Naruto with one little extra, Eiko said as she handed the pictures to Tamao's awaiting hands. Hey now, Naruto finally came to and cried out, don't I have a say in this? He said slightly annoyed before glancing over at Eiko. If she was able to spy on him without him noticing, either she was really that good, or he needed to really pick up his game. Nope. Chirped the four girls as they continued to look at the pictures. Naruto sighed before getting up. Hee. Naruto stopped. He had heard that type of laughter before. That was the laughter of a perverted man. He looked over in the corner as he saw Jin hunched over looking over the pictures that he just got. You okay there? Naruto asked before Jin shot up, hiding the photos behind his back. Yeah, I'm great, Jin said nervously as he wiped some drool off of his face. So you're Naruto Uzumaki, right? Jin said with a hand extended. It's nice to meet you. I'm Gaine Morioka, president of the newspaper club. Naruto took Jin's hand and shook it before looking around. Nice to meet you too. By the way, where is Sukune? Naruto asked only to get a chuckle from the president. Oh, that guy? He said, waving a hand nonchalantly. He ran away once he was caught peeping at both Mocha-chan and Kurumu-chan's panties. He laughed. Man, both of them really slapped the hell out of him. Naruto's eyes slightly narrowed. That didn't sound like his buddy at all. If anything, that sounded like from what he could tell from his brief encounter with his senpai. That's how it was. Oh well, there really wasn't anything that he could do about it now. Even if he brought up the issue to the girls, he wasn't sure if they really would believe him or not. They would most likely get embarrassed and irrationally accuse him of wanting a peep too. Something that he didn't need. He would just talk to Sukune later that day and get all the facts clear. For now he would play the innocent friend who doesn't really know anything. Wah! Sukune cried out as he pouted in Naruto's room. Naruto, please help me. He cried out as he began to engorge an unholy amount of better-than-sex brownies. Naruto's eyebrow twitched violently. Honestly, he loved his bro, but there were limitations as to what was considered into this friendship. It had seriously affected his training for the day and there was no way in hell he could working on his fuinjutsu at this point. You can stop bawling like a little girl anytime now, Naruto said, slightly annoyed with his friend. Honestly, the kid hadn't stopped crying for like 2 freaking hours. But Naruto, you believe me, right? He asked hopefully. If you say you didn't mean to, then I believe, man. Now stop your bitchin' and man up. Naruto shouted. Listen, Mocha-chan is probably just embarrassed that you saw her panties, so that's why she's acting the way she is. Wait a day or two, I bet that she will have forgotten the entire thing, Naruto said. Sukune sniffled for a moment, trying to control his emotions. I swear, man, sometimes you act like a little girl, wearing a frilly dress, with little pigtails, skipping around the courtyard. Sukune slightly glared at the blonde. Do not, he muttered to himself before grunting slightly as he pushed himself off of Naruto's bed. Naruto quirked an eyebrow. You okay there? He asked. Sukune nodded as he stretched his limbs. Yay. He said, it's just that for some reason, my body has been feeling heavier recently. Sukune looked at Naruto. Am I getting fat? He asked as Naruto slapped his own face. And here you're saying that you're not acting like a girl, Naruto muttered. He was glad to see that his little experiment was working though. It seemed as though Sukune was getting used to everything though. He might be keeping secrets from his friends, but he at least wanted to have something that they could resort to as a last-minute backup measure. The next day. Damn it. Naruto grumbled, all this drama is really way too tiring for me. He said to himself. That morning, Mocha had totally ignored Sukune, who was trying to follow the girl like a little lost puppy before he once again started bawling to Naruto. He was lost in thought thinking about what he could do to help with his friend's predicament that he didn't pay attention when he rounded a corner. Kya! A girl cried out as she fell down bumping into Naruto. A stack of papers flew out of her hands and scattered all over the ground. Naruto blinked as he looked down at the girl. She was a pretty girl who had short violet hair. She had a small frame and a small bust, while her legs were long and slender. She rubbed her backside that was stinging slightly. Sorry about that, Naruto said hastily as he bent down to grab the scattered papers. The girl blinked for a moment before she too went to grab the papers. It's all right, she said quickly, you don't need to worry about it. Just as her hand descended on a piece of paper, another hand landed upon hers. She looked up and gazed into Naruto's cerulean eyes. He blushed slightly as he stared into her red eyes before pulling back. Sorry, he said quickly and quietly and continued to gather the papers. The violet-haired girl blinked for a moment before smiling slightly. They gathered the stack and stood up before Naruto glanced at her again. You're the student council vice president, right? Naruto asked. The girl smiled at the blonde. That's me, she said with a slight bow. My name is Lilith, she chirped. You look familiar. What's your name? She asked. Naruto Uzumaki, he said smiling. Nice to meet you. He then motioned to the stack of papers in his hands. So where do these go? He asked. Oh, you don't need to worry about that. I got it, she said. Naruto just shook his head. I'd feel bad if I didn't help you with these after knocking you over. He grinned. Just tell me where to go. Lilith blinked before she smiled while brushing a bang out of her face. All right. Thanks, she said quietly. This way, she suddenly said brightly as she motioned the blonde down the hallway. An hour later. Wow, Lilith said as they placed the papers on top of a desk. They had to make a few trips back and forth to move all of the documents. You really know about everything about ramen, don't you? She said hesitantly. She guessed that it wasn't so bad to have a ramen addiction. It was better than a lot of the interests that many of monsters had in the academy after all. It seemed as though there were many of the males who just couldn't control their hormonal instincts. A few had tried to go after her as well, but she had dealt with them accordingly. In some of the most painful ways and in some males' opinion, cruel and unusual punishment. Still, the blonde that she had bumped into was turning out to be a lot more intriguing than she had first imagined. He also seemed to have a lot of good ideas that the student council could use to incorporate into the academy's system. He had yet to stare lustfully at her. Sure, he seemed attracted to her, but she noted that he was just shy in that regard. He genuinely just wanted to help her out. Naruto just grinned. Maybe I'll make a special meal for you one of these days to introduce you to the magical wonders that ramen has, he said excitingly. Lilith just giggled at the blonde's antics. Maybe I'll take you up on that offer someday, she said smiling. Naruto, how would you feel about joining the student council? She asked quietly. Naruto quirked an eyebrow. Not to not sound grateful, but why? He asked. Lilith shifted slightly. The student council is lacking a lot on the value of moral discipline within this academy, she explained. There are few people who are like you, Naruto-kun. She looked up at Naruto. I believe that you would make an incredible difference within our school. Naruto awkwardly scratched his head. Lilith-san. He started, I feel like you're overestimating me and what I can do. He said sheepishly. I don't think that I really can do that much, to be perfectly honest. That and he just really didn't have time for it. With everything else that he has to do for school along with his club activities, he could barely finish his training that he needed to get done. Not to mention working on his seal arrangements, which basically caused him a huge migraine in itself. Oh, but I think you definitely would, Naruto-kun, she said looking up hopefully to the boy. Please consider the position. She begged as she clasped her hands together. Naruto at this point looked torn. Damn it, he thought as he tried to look away from the girl. Why does every girl know this frickin' puppy eye no jutsu? He sighed as he scratched his head. Listen, I honestly don't think that I am right for the job, to be perfectly honest. And I really don't have a lot of time to spare with my other club activities. He said, causing the girl to look down depressed. But if there is anything else that you need help with, whether or not it's just like grunt work or just need to talk to someone, definitely call me up. Naruto said brightly. And hey, We could always set up interviews to help the students know the endeavors of the student council as well. Let the students know the accomplishments of your hard work. Lilith looked back up at the boy for a moment before letting out a slight smile with a sigh. Well, I suppose that's all right, she said. Thanks for everything though. I really appreciate it, and don't worry, I'll definitely take you up on that offer of yours later. She beamed up at the blonde. Naruto just grinned back at her as they walked out of the room they were in. Looking forward to it, he said as Lilith locked up the room. They continued down the hall when a flash of pink in the corner of his eye caught his attention. Huh? He said as whipped his head around and saw the vanishing figure of a depressed Mocha running up the stairs to the rooftops. Hey Lilith, he said, getting his new friend's attention. I gotta go do something right now, he said as he backtracked down the hallway. But, hey, give me a call whenever you need help with something, alright? He said. Alright Naruto-kun, she said as she waved off the blonde. I'm gonna keep you to that deal then, she said. Naruto just winked at the girl before he too disappeared up the stairs after his friend. Lilith continued standing there for a little bit before turning around and heading down the opposite direction of the blonde. Naruto Uzumaki, she said the name to herself. What an interesting guy. I'll definitely have to keep an eye out on him in the future. Maybe he could be. She trailed off in her head as her face flushed. The rooftops. Mocha sighed as she looked out over the entire academy from the rooftop. She didn't know what to think about Sukune anymore. Was he really that much of a pervert to do all of those things? First there was the peeping that her and Kurumu's panties incident. Then there were those rumors of him peeping in the girls' locker rooms as the girls were changing. Then he didn't deny the fact that he was peeping at all. She sighed again. She just wasn't sure what to think anymore. Ramen for your thought? Her eyes widened as she heard a voice behind her. She whipped around and breathed out a sigh of relief as she saw Naruto there extending a bowl of ramen to her. Naruto-kun, she said as she accepted the bowl. What are you doing here? She asked as Naruto pulled out a bowl of steaming ramen from nowhere. That's my question, Naruto said as he dug into his food. I saw you running up here and I got worried for you. Is everything alright? He asked. Mocha smiled softly looking down at her ramen. He was worried about her. Naruto really was a wonderful person. Everything about him confused her more and more. The more time she spent around him, the more and more she wanted to be around him. But then there was Sukune. He was her first bite after all, and that meant something significant to her. She sighed as she tried to sort out her own feelings. I don't know Naruto-kun, she said softly. She then reiterated everything that had happened throughout the day with her and Sukune. Naruto ate quietly and listened to the vampire's story as she let out her frustrations of the incidents and rumors. I just don't know what to think or believe anymore, Naruto-kun, she said sadly. What should I do? She asked looking down over the school. Naruto slurped up the last of his ramen silently contemplating how he should respond. Well, he said, what do you think happened? He asked. Do you think that Sukune is really that type of person who would do those sort of things? Mocha widened her eyes. No, she shouted out before composing herself. I mean, at least I didn't think so, she said to herself. Then why not believe in him? Naruto asked, getting Mocha to whip her head around and stare at him. I mean, he is our friend. And I know it would hurt a lot more if my friends didn't believe in me just because of some rumors that we're not sure is true or not. But, do you believe that Sukune really didn't do it and that it's all just a misunderstanding? Mocha asked slightly desperately. Naruto quirked another eyebrow. Of course I believe that he didn't do it, Naruto said. But everyone said. She started. So what? Naruto interrupted. Sukune is my friend. I know what kind of person he is. I don't need anyone else telling me what kind of person he is. Sukune is Sukune, and I'll always believe in him, he said, causing Mocha's eyes to widen her eyes. Naruto-kun, she whispered in slight awe at his conviction for believing in Sukune. She looked down slightly ashamed. Naruto-kun really is an amazing person, she thought. Without a doubt in his mind did he believe that Sukune was innocent. She continued looking down at the ground depressed. Nay, Naruto-kun, she said quietly. I'm a terrible person, aren't I? She said sadly. Her eyes widened when she felt a hand land on the top of her head. She looked up and stared into the eyes of a smiling Naruto. Of course not. Naruto grinned, because you haven't abandoned your friends. I know that you'll always be there for Smoka-chan. So don't even consider the possibility that you're a bad person. In fact, I think you're an amazing person, Naruto said brightly. Mocha stared at the blonde boy for a moment before tears started coming to her eyes. Wah! She started crying as she lunged in and started to cry into the blonde's chest. Naruto blinked for a moment before his eyes softened and let her cry it out. After a few minutes she backed off, wiping her eyes with her hands. Gomen, she sniffled as she tried to recompose herself. Naruto smiled. Nothing to apologize for, he said. Now come on. He gestured, let's go find Sukune and resolve this entire thing. Could you let me stay here for a moment to just think? Mocha asked shyly. She wanted to go with Naruto, but she needed to figure out a way on how she should make up with Sukune. Naruto just grinned. Sure, he said, take all the time you need. He then pulled out a small blade. Mocha-chan, he said, if there's ever anything that you need, whether or not it's help, or just need a friend to talk to. He said as he placed the handle of the kunai into her hand, just stab this into the ground and I promise that I'll be there, okay? Naruto said as he closed the girl's hand over the handle. Mocha stared at the blade for a moment, looking at it before looking up at Naruto. As she looked into his eyes, she could tell that he was serious about everything. She let out a small sigh and smiled, nodding her head. Good girl, Naruto said as he patted her head. Let me know when you plan on finding Sukune. I'll come and help you find him, all right? He said as he started to walk away from the girl who just smiled and nodded her head once again. With that, the blonde disappeared down the stairs back into the academy. Mocha turned around and looked out over the academy grounds before lifting the blade that Naruto had just given her, inspecting it in the moonlight. Naruto-kun, she whispered as she continued looking at the shine that reflected off of the blade. With Naruto. Naruto continued walking down the hallway, humming happily to himself. Mocha-chan. She really is a kind girl. Glad that all of that awkwardness is all over with, he thought. Naruto-kun. His head turned as he saw Sukune, Kurumu, Tamao, and Eiko running in a panic his way. What's up, guys? Naruto asked, only to be pulled by Sukune and Kurumu back in the direction to the roof. Hey, he yelled out. Sorry, Naruto. Sukune said as he dragged his friend, but we have to get to Mocha-san, he said urgently. Kurumu nodded her head. It looks like Jin-senpai is up to something, she said. It seems like Sukune-kun was set up by him to make him look bad in Mocha's eyes. Eiko winked at the blonde and whipped out some pictures from in between her cleavage. This here is proof that Gaine-kun set Sukune-kun up, she said. Naruto looked at the pictures, showing Jin leading Sukune to the girl's locker room window and peeking through. It really didn't matter anyways, Naruto said, but I suppose this is irrefutable proof. Sukune looked at him. What do you mean? He asked. Naruto finally got his own feet and started running with the group. I already talked to Mocha-chan, he said. She already agreed that she would talk to you about it and listen to your side of the story. Sukune's eyes widened. Naruto, he said happily. He really was a great friend. Hell, he's probably been the best person that he's ever known. Thank you, he said, only to get a friendly punch in the arm. Don't get all girly on me again, Naruto said. Come on. Let's go, he said as they ran up the stairs. With Mocha. Mocha stood staring at the kunai for a few moments, pondering about the blonde. What exactly does this thing do? She wondered. Oh, came a voice from behind. She turned around and saw Jin there standing underneath the moonlight. So this is where you've been, Mocha-san, he said, smiling. It's evening already. Look, he pointed to the moon. It's a beautiful full moon tonight. Jin, senpai, Mocha said slowly. Do you hear about Sukune? Seems like he got caught peeping and he's still being confined? Are you waiting for that guy, Mocha-san? He asked as he pulled out a piece of paper from his J-sict. I don't know who took it, but this picture's been going around. Mocha looked and her eyes widened, seeing Sukune standing on a crate looking in a window. It's the peeper, Jin said as he handed the photo to Mocha. Well, keep quiet about that picture to Sukune-kun. It's so pathetic, Jin said as he wrapped an arm around the girl. And Mocha-san, just forget about a guy like that. He looked at the girl with lust-filled eyes. Don't worry, Mocha-san. Tonight, I'll counsel you. He was about to make his move when he felt her hand forcibly remove his from her body. Mocha-san? He asked. She then ripped the pictures in front of Jin. I don't believe this, she said with some anger. Like Naruto-kun said, Sukune is my friend. And I will believe his word before I believe all these rumors that are spreading. If Sukune said that he didn't mean to peep, then he didn't mean it. I'm going to believe in my friends, she declared. Jin just stared at the girl for a moment before chuckling. Haha, are you serious? He laughed. How admirable. I'm falling for you harder and harder, Mocha-san. Mocha could feel Yukai starting to gather around the teen in front of her. Sorry Mocha-san. On nights with a full moon, I'm overcome with a feeling of power and I suddenly lose all control. His canines began to lengthen as he smiled wickedly. When my emotions excite me so much, I suddenly lose control over myself, he cried out. Mocha backed away in slight fear. Senpai? She asked. Then Jin's body began to grow. Muscles began to increase in size. Bone crunching could be heard as they rearranged themselves. Long thick fur began to grow all over his body. Then I'll make you my woman by force Akashiya Mocha, he roared out. Aye! Mocha cried out as a clawed hand came at her. Mocha closed her eyes, putting her hands in front of her only to hear a squelching sound. Arrrggggggg. Jin cried out as he reeled back his hand in pain. Mocha opened her eyes and saw that the blade that Naruto had given her was embedded into the hand of Jin. Mocha blinked as she saw a sudden flash of yellow before saw Naruto on the back of the monstrous beast holding a curved scythe and chain at the lycan's throat. Jin's eyes widened. You, he growled out. Naruto just gave the beast a haughty wink. Jin spun around quickly as he took a swipe at the blonde only for him to dodge it by flipping away. Hey there senpai, he said brightly. Nice night isn't it? Naruto-kun. Mocha cried out relieved. Wait, all three of them turned and saw Sukune, Tamao, Kurumu, and Eiko coming through the door. Jin growled. How did you get out? He demanded. Weren't you locked up? Kurumu-chan rescued me. Sukune said. Face Gaine-kun. Eiko sang out, you're done for. She held out the photos of Jin framing Sukune. Told you I was one hell of a photographer. Jin didn't move for a moment looking at the pictures that Eiko had thrown down in front of him. Damn. He swore. How dare you? Get in the way of our special moment, back off. He roared out fully taking on his true form. So this is Senpai's true form. Sukune cried out. A wolf. Just like his personality. He looked over to Mocha. I've got to save Mocha-san, he cried out. Sukune. Kurumu cried out after him worriedly. Wait, it's dangerous. A werewolf and a vampire are both equally strong monsters. Even if she does attack him directly, her chances are, she left her sentence hanging. As Sukune ran over to Mocha, Jin sped over to stop him. Sank. Jin's eyes widened as he narrowly avoided the giant windmill shuriken that embedded itself in front of the lycan, stopping his attempt to stop Sukune. He growled as he looked around for the blonde only to see that the blonde was nowhere to be found. Looking for somebody senpai? Jin's eyes widened as he heard Naruto's voice directly behind him. Turning his head, he growled as he saw that the blonde had somehow gotten back onto his back once again. You! Stop interfering! He roared as he took multiple swings at the blonde, who bobbed and weaved between his dangerous claws. Jin then went for a haymaker, causing Naruto to twist his body while throwing out multiple shuriken. Their blades pierced through the air as they curved around the lycan before he noticed the wire attached. What? He said as the wires tightened around his body. Rrrraaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaaauu aaaaaaaa drove him into the roof's surface. Holy, Tamao said in disbelief as she stared at her soon-to-be mate. Eiko had the same expression that the mermaid did as well. Kurumu, though not as surprised, still couldn't help but stare in wonderment at the abilities of her blonde friend. Is it done? Kurumu asked. They waited patiently as the dust and debris died down. Snap. Snap. Snap, they all heard as they stared in. Jin was bleeding slightly as he cut his way through the ninja wire binding him. You? Jin panted out. What the hell are you? He demanded. Naruto looked confused before pointing to himself. Me? He asked. I'm not really anyone special, he said smiling, but she's sure something else. Naruto said as he pointed over towards Mocha and Sukune, who was holding her rosario within his hand looking slightly confused. Yukai flooded throughout the entire region as Mocha's body too began to change. Her hair turned silver and eyes became slitted in red. Jin stared as the girl began her transformation. What is this? He cried out. Red eyes, could it be? Could she be a vampire? He continued to stare at the girl. Hey, he chuckled. This is Mocha-san's true form. Ha 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 ha. Awesome. Even after transforming, you still are beautiful. Mocha Akashiya. I could care less that you are a vampire. I will definitely defeat you and make you my woman, he cried out as he lunged for the girl. Don't mess around with me. Mocha growled before Jin grinned and disappeared in a flash, causing the vampire's eyes to widen as she punched thin air. "What are you fighting way over there for?" she heard Jin laugh out as he appeared on the other side of the roof. "What incredible speed!" Kurumu cried out. "If a vampire's power is strength, then a werewolf's power is speed. And the strength of the moonlight also increases my speed," he said as he was about to take off once again. "Really?" A voice from behind Jin causing his eyes to widen once again. "You're fast, but not that fast. Do you really have to talk about yourself so much?" Jin growled as he saw the blonde once again lying on his back. "How did?" he growled out. Everyone else gawked. "How did he get all the way over there?" Tamao asked. Eiko was only grinning. What a fine mate he would make to the clan. Mocha raised her eyebrows slightly before frowning slightly. The blonde enigma hadn't shown this kind of speed before. "Get off!" Jin growled as he threw the blonde off of him before zipping off in a blur. Mocha's eyes narrowed. "He's moving so fast I can't even see him," she thought. So this is the power of a werewolf. Her eyes widened when she also saw flashes of yellow going around the entire area. "What is this?" she asked, trying to figure out what the hell was going on. She then felt a hand land on her shoulder. She jerked as she turned and saw that it was the blonde behind her. "As much as I would like to kick the shit out of this perv," Naruto grinned, "I think it would be better if you had the honors of doing it. Seeing as he is the reason why your other self was in such distress." Mocha's eyes narrowed. "How?" she asked before Naruto smirked. Everyone blinked as both Mocha and Naruto vanished in thin air. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Everyone jumped as they whipped their heads over only to see that Mocha had heel-kicked Jin's head into the concrete rooftop, creating a crater underneath the werewolf. Few teeth could be seen lying around the crater along with the wolf's blood. "Weakling," Mocha scoffed. "Did you really think someone like yourself was fit to be with me? Know your place. If you're going to make a pass at me, you had better prepare your body first," Mocha said before glancing over to Naruto. Naruto smiled before the girl started walking over his direction, with probably not the happiest face in the world on her face. Once again the girl grabbed Naruto by the collar and lifted him up. "That technique," Mocha said, staring into the blue eyes of Naruto. "That was no speed technique that you used, more of a teleportation." Naruto nodded before he got out of the girl's grasp and headed towards the downed lichen. Naruto bent over and reached in the back pocket of the beast, revealing the strange bladed kunai that Naruto had given to her other self. "This is the reason for that," Naruto said, grinning. "Where this little baby goes, so kunai, it acts as a homing beacon for me and I can instantly appear there." Naruto smiled as the blade. "This is my father's legacy," he said. Mocha raised an eyebrow. This was the first time that she had heard anything of his past. As interested as she was in this, she had other matters she wanted to address first. "Huh?" Naruto got out before once again he found her hand covering his mouth before being slammed into the nearest wall. "What are you doing?" cried out Tamao and Kurumu. Eiko kept silent as she watched everything unfold. "Back off." Mocha glared at the two girls, causing them to halt in their tracks. There was really nothing that either of them could do, as this inner Mocha was on an entirely different playing field than themselves. She then turned back towards the blonde, whose eyes were once again wide in confusion. "I believe I said last time that I would have my answers then next time we met." She smirked. "Well, guess what? I want those answers now." She let the boy's mouth go as her other hand punched directly next to his head, creating a crater against the wall. "Now, human," she said, "how is it that you can do these things that you can do? No ordinary human can do things such as this, so what is your story?" she asked seriously, looking into the blonde's eyes. "What are you?" Naruto looked back into her eyes. "The human definition of awesome?" he tried. Thump. "HRG. No go." Naruto wheezed out as he felt Mocha's fist implant into his stomach. Damn, that girl had one hell of a punch as a drop of blood slightly dripped out of his mouth. But he could take it. Sakura had done a lot worse to him in the past, so this was pretty easy. She grabbed his mouth once again and pushed him against the wall. "Wrong answer," she said. "Now once again, what are you?" She paused for a moment, waiting for the blonde's next response. "He's a ninja," Mocha heard Eiko say while Naruto widened his eyes before narrowing them at the girl. "Hey, don't give me that look," she said defensively. "It's your own damn fault using shuriken and kunai." "A ninja?" the vampire questioned, looking at the green-haired girl. "And how do you know this?" she asked. Eiko just shrugged her shoulders. "'Cause I'm one too," she replied. "Though, I've never heard of a human shinobi as strong as Naruto-kun. but many of our techniques it seems they're the same. She explained. I'm surprised that he is able to do a few of them, because there are ninjutsu that do require yukai, so I'm not sure how he is able to do that. But, he is a shinobi regardless. Mocha nodded her head as everyone else registered the explanation that was given. Mocha dropped Naruto to the floor. Now, she started, was that so hard? She asked sweetly, playfully patting his face. I do not know why you choose to keep this information to yourself. She said, and there is no way, shinobi or not, a human can do the things that you can do. She said. She had heard of the infamous assassins of the dark. She even had the chance to encounter a few in her life, and none of them had shown even remotely the amount of power that the blonde had displayed before her. But, I suppose those questions can be saved for another day, she said as she turned around. She sniffed the air before looking down at her hand, seeing a small amount of Naruto's blood in her palm. She stared at it for a second before grinning. But, I suppose there is something that can be done to forgive your insolence, she said as she turned around, grabbing the blonde again, lifting him in the air as she brought her mouth close to his neck. Oi, oi, Naruto cried out as she held him steady. Shut up. Food should not speak, she said before she sunk her fangs into the blonde's neck. The rest of the group's eyes widened and a few cries from the girls rang out as they saw the vampire start sucking his blood. The thick red fluid was bitter as she continued to suck, but eventually the substance became sweet and delicious. She greedily sucked harder on the blonde's neck, causing him to cry out in slight pain. She had never had anything like this before. She couldn't stop herself from continually drinking from this boy. The more that she consumed of the blonde's blood, the more her body craved it. She could feel herself getting aroused from the substance as she felt herself start to become wet. She moaned as her hands then began to roam across the blonde's muscular body. She unconsciously started to rub her voluptuous body against the struggling blonde. Naruto, on the other hand, could feel his head begin to become hazy as the amount of blood that the gorgeous vampire was intaking. Mocha-chan, he mumbled as his face began to pale and his body began to weaken. That's enough. He heard a cry as water drenched the both of them. Mocha hissed violently as she jumped back and snarled at the mermaid who was responsible for not only getting her wet, but taking her meal away from her. What are you doing, you sea parasite? She growled as she flexed her fists. Tamao's glare did not falter as she pointed to Naruto. You went too far, she said, just look at him, any more blood and you would have killed him. She growled out. Mocha looked over to Naruto, who was now lying on the ground looking almost deathly white. She mumbled a few curses as she berated herself for getting too enthralled in the blonde. She couldn't help it though. Even now she could still taste the sweet and delicate blood of the blonde, and her body was craving even more of the liquid. She could feel her own arousal and her body craving more of the blonde. She sniffed the air as she smelt her own hormonal fluids, causing her to turn around swiftly and snatch the Rosario from Sukune. Whatever, she mumbled, the next time he and I meet, I will get more answers from him, she said before she put on the Rosario, reverting back to the bubbly pink-haired Mocha. She fell as Sukune cried out, catching her. Tamao sighed. That damn girl, she said as she rubbed her temples. I don't think that she's ever going to change, Kurumu muttered. Definitely like this Mocha a lot better though. Tamao nodded her head in agreement. Now to take care of Naruto, she said as she turned around only to find that there was no Naruto on the ground, or anywhere to be found for that matter. Where'd he go? She cried out, panicking. Oh. Sukune piped in. Eiko-san said that she was going to take him to the infirmary for some sort of specialized treatment. I don't really know what that means, but she looked really excited to take him there if you ask me. Sukune hummed to himself. Tamao and Kurumu blinked for a moment before a dark aura of yukai could be felt radiating off of the two of them. Sukune gulped as he took a step backwards, hanging onto Mocha. Kurumu-chan, Tamao said eerily calmly. Tamao-chan, Kurumu said in the same voice before the both of them lit off like a rocket heading for the infirmary. Sukune breathed a sigh of relief as the girls vanished. Good luck with that, Naruto, he said before his readjusted Mocha and started heading for the infirmary himself. Days later. NYA, I'm sorry about everything that has happened. Shizuka-sensei apologized to her club members. Earlier that day, the newspaper club had finished distributing out their first edition of the school's newspaper that they worked on. Headliner stating the truth of who the true peeper was and that Sukune was the scapegoat for Jin's entire operation. As a result of the fact and for the other disturbances that were manufactured because of the event, Jin had been suspended from the school for 2 weeks and his title in the newspaper club was stripped from him as well. Naruto had recovered basically the next day from his little blood donation. Though, there were many questions pertaining to him being a shinobi by his friends. Since the cat was already out of the bag, he just admitted to the fact and left it as that. It was amusing to see Sukune's reaction though. The fact that his best friend was a mysterious assassin that fought in the dark. Naruto did notice that Mocha had a hard time being around the blonde for any length of time. In fact, the girl had hardly muttered a single word to the blonde since the incident. Every time that he would talk to her, her face would turn bright red and she would run off saying that she had something that she needed to get done. Well, because of this small little incident, Shusuke said, we now currently have a seat open for the president of the club. Everyone looked around as they wondered who would be the new president. Fortunately, a new transfer student has come to our academy recently who was the president of her school's newspaper club as well. Shizuka smiled. I spoke with her briefly and she has agreed to lend us her experience and join the club. You may come in now, she called out. The door opened and walked another busty green-haired girl wearing their school's uniform. She walked briskly as she took a seat on the teacher's desk, sitting in a provocative pose, showing off her black-laced panties to the person in front of her, who was inadvertently Naruto. She giggled as she saw the blonde's reaction as he tried desperately to find somewhere else to look, causing all of the girls there to growl slightly at this girl. My name is Morrigan Ainsland. She cooed to the blonde in front of her. Both Mocha's and Kurumu's eyes narrowed as they heard this girl speak. They had never met her, but there was something off with this new girl. Morrigan stroked one of Naruto's whiskered cheeks gently, causing him to shudder slightly. I think that we can become great friends, nay? She winked at the blonde before he was taken up into the busts of both Eiko and Tamao. Hands off, hussy, Eiko said. He's ours, Tamao stated, causing Morrigan to smirk. Oh really? She said softly before both Eiko and Tamao were pulled off by an angry-looking Mocha and Kurumu. He's not yours either, Mocha declared. We're not going to hand off our friend to just any whore, Kurumu declared. This started the major catfight that occurred between the girls, where clawing, name-calling, and clothes-ripping proceeded in front of both Naruto and Sukune, who both just sighed. Ramen? Naruto asked as he held up a steaming bowl of ramen in front of Sukune's face. Man. How do you always have these things steaming hot? He asked as he took the bowl before sitting down and watching the fight run its course. Naruto shrugged. I'm a ninja, he said, plainly taking a bite of ramen. You know, sneaky like. Sukune just shook his head in disbelief, smiling. Shizuka-sensei on the other hand was fretting over the massive fight that had occurred between her students. Both Naruto and Sukune sighed as they ate their ramen, slightly amused at the display that the girls were giving them. The end. Thanks for watching. Also remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.